Chapter 1849. The wisps of black light were not very dazzling, but they exuded a kind of aura that made Qin Feiyong and the inner demon feel fear. The moment of true despair has arrived. You guys should enjoy it. The demon ancestor roared, and the black light on the two horns suddenly burst out, turning into two beams of light that went straight for Qin Feiyong and the inner demon. Qin Feiyong and the inner demon's eyes were solemn, and the golden light in their palms glowed. Whoosh! However, suddenly, the speed of the two beams of light increased by several times. In an instant, they cut through the sky and sank into the chests of Qin Feiyong and the inner demon. Poof! Immediately, blood splattered across the sky. Qin Feiyong and the inner demon's faces were full of shock. Even they could not react to this speed. On their chests, there was a bloody hole that penetrated from the front to the back. Fortunately, the demon ancestor was not aiming for their lower abdomens. Otherwise, this attack would be enough to shatter their sea of qi. They did not have a forbidden technique like the demon ancestor. If their sea of qi was destroyed, this battle would be declared over. Because once their sea of qi was destroyed, they would lose their cultivation. At that time, the demon ancestor would only need to move his fingers to destroy them. Once they died, Zhao Tailai and the other two and the blood Kirin would not be a match for the demon ancestor. Haha. Do you know why I didn't destroy your sea of qi directly? Because I have not seen the battle formula and the kill formula. Hurry up, don't waste my time. Let's have a real battle. The demon ancestor looked impatient. A real battle. Qin Feiyong and the inner demons were silent. The demon king's body was the demon ancestor's last resort? It seems like we have no other choice now. The inner demons secretly said. Yes. Whether the demon king's body is his last resort or not, we have to fight with all our strength. Qin Feiyong responded. The two were not communicating through voice transmission, but directly communicating through their minds. There was a fundamental difference between telepathy and voice transmission. Hurry up. My patience is limited. The demon ancestor roared. The two horns once again shot out two black beams of light that shot towards the two of them like lightning. Enough of your arrogance. The inner demons roared and raised their hands to slap him. Previously, it was because of the suddenness of the situation that they did not react in time. But now, they already knew the speed of the light beam, so how could they be injured again? Qin Feiyong also struck out at the same time. Rumble! Two beams of golden light roared out like two giant golden dragons, pouncing towards the two black beams of light. From afar, it looked like two black meteorites and two golden comets were madly crashing into each other. In an instant the two met. Heaven and earth buzzed, giving him a taste of his own medicine. The two black beams of light immediately turned in the air and shot towards the ancestral devil. The fiend ancestor was shocked. One had to know. At this moment, he had the cultivation of a war god in the great success stage. The power of the black beam was no less than that of a perfect divine art. Yet, it was actually bounced back? How heaven-defying was this return formula? Then let's try again. Let's see if you can block the supreme of all demons. The ancestral devil laughed. The demon statue appeared out of nowhere and shattered the two beams of light as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The two golden beams of light stopped. They were in a stalemate with the demon statue in the air. The inner demon smiled and said, "It seems that the power of the return formula is somewhat beyond our imagination." Qin Feiyong nodded. Originally, they had planned to activate the kill formula and the battle formula. But now, the power displayed by the return formula seemed to be enough to fight against the ancestral devil who had activated his demon king body. Rumble! After a few moments of stalemate, the demon statue suddenly trembled in the air and began to slowly retreat. What? The cultivation of a war god in the great success stage and the supreme of all demons that surpass the perfect divine art can't block the return formula. The ancestral devil's eyes widened in anger and disbelief. Was the so-called heaven-defying divine art as powerful as the heaven-defying divine artifact? Rumble! As the saying goes, a defeated army is like a landslide. The speed at which the demon statue retreated was getting faster and faster. On the other hand, the two golden beams of light were aggressive and ferocious. Finally, the demon statue suddenly turned, and like a giant mountain, it ruthlessly crashed into the ancestral devil's body. Ah! The ancestral devil immediately screamed and flew out horizontally. His body was almost torn apart. Divine blood was like a waterfall, soaking the sky. There was no doubt. This blow was enough to kill. If it was anyone else, including Qin Feiyang and the inner demons, they wouldn't dare to say that they could survive. However, in the nick of time, waves of demonic flames surged out. The ancestral devil's body that was about to be torn apart actually healed in an instant, not even leaving a wound. Soul of life. What an infuriating forbidden technique. The inner demons looked at this scene and couldn't help but go crazy in their hearts. If it wasn't for this forbidden technique, the ancestral devil would have long been cut into 8 pieces by them. Ha ha. Continue to despair and struggle. I'm immortal. The ancestral devil laughed crazily, and his eyes suddenly turned gray. Immediately, Qin Feiyang and the inner demon's hearts surged with an unresolvable despair. I said before, this eye of despair is useless to me. Qin Feiyang shouted, and the despair in his heart instantly dissipated. It's useless to you. But what about the inner demons? Look at him now, how helpless and panicked he is. The ancestral devil laughed. Qin Feiyang was shocked and hurriedly turned his head to look, only to see the inner demons lying in the void like him before, his entire body emitting an aura of despair. Swish! Qin Feiyang's gaze turned and landed on the ancestral devil again, saying, I can defeat despair, I believe that he can too. As he spoke, his arm shook, and wisps of blood-red killing intent surged out from his palm. In an instant, the world seemed to have turned into a sea of murderous intent. The ancestral devil's heart was also panicking. He looked at Qin Feiyang's palm. Could that killing intent be evolved from the kill formula? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the killing intent in his palm condensed into a terrifying aura. In an instant, it pierced through the sky and entered the ancestral devil's lower abdomen. The ancestral devil was immediately blasted away, and there was a fist-sized bloody hole in his lower abdomen. Blood spurted out like a fountain. So fast. So strong. The ancestral devil looked at Qin Feiyang, tongue-tied. Whether it was the lethality or speed, this fleeting grace had far surpassed his demonic dragon formula. No matter what level of deity technique it is, I will not be defeated. Soul of life, open. The ancestral devil shook his head fiercely, and the demonic flames surged. The shattered sea of qi and the bloody hole in his lower abdomen were once again repaired. Since I can't kill you, then I'll exhaust your life. Qin Feiyang's arm shook again, and thick killing intent emerged. The ancestral devil looked at Qin Feiyang's palm coldly. However, that fleeting grace did not appear. Why? You're not attacking. The ancestral devil raised his eyebrows. I'll let you see the complete form of the kill formula. The killing intent in Qin Feiyang's palm became more and more intense. It was as if a sea of blood was surging, and the killing intent enveloped all directions. Complete form. The ancestral devil was shocked. Bang! When the killing intent in Qin Feiyang's palm reached a limit, the blood fog suddenly began to condense and change. Clang! Very soon, a blood-red longsword condensed and formed. The sword was 3 feet long and 3 fingers wide. It was suffused with a dazzling blood glow, and a murderous aura that was many times more terrifying than before surged out. This murderous aura. The ancestral devil was shocked. This murderous aura was something that he had never felt before. He could not help but feel despair in his heart. This is the current kill formula. Qin Feiyang grabbed the blood-red long sword and waved it fiercely. The long sword buzzed, and a peerless sharpness overwhelmed the mountains and overturned the seas. Terrifying, it's really terrifying. The ancestral devil murmured. Before the battle even began, fear had already risen in his heart. Come on. Enjoy the despair brought by the kill formula to your heart's content. Qin Feiyang grabbed the blood-red long sword and stepped into the air. His eyes were like the blood-red long sword, sharp and threatening. Demonic dragon seal. Demonic dragon roar. Lord of all demons. The ancestral devil laughed. The 3 god arts appeared in the sky, and the demonic aura filled the sky as it blasted towards Qin Feiyang. Rotten dead wood, unable to withstand a single blow. Qin Feiyang smiled contemptuously and waved the blood-red long sword in his hand. Waves of sword qi swept out, and the 3 god arts collapsed one after another. Blood gushed out from the ancestral devil's mouth. The demonic dragon seal that surpassed the perfect god art was instantly annihilated. This is the 6-word god art? The Tao formula allows me to have a faster speed than you. The return formula allows me to give you a taste of your own medicine. Your god art, your divine power, they will all become my means to kill you. The kill formula has the power to destroy everything. I want to ask you, what are your chances of winning? Qin Feiyong roared as his sword slashed through the sky. The ancestral devil's divine body was split in half on the spot. The ancestral devil frantically sacrificed his lifespan to repair his divine body. Consume as much as you want. The moment your lifespan is exhausted, it will be the moment of your death. Qin Feiyong went berserk, and the blood-red long sword slashed the ancestral devil's body like cutting tofu. Blood rained down, dyeing the sky red. Powerful. Truly powerful. However, the ancestral devil, who clearly had no strength to fight back, laughed even more unscrupulously. Gradually, the ancestral devil's face finally showed signs of aging. His long black hair was also gradually turning white. This meant that his lifespan was slowly approaching its end. However, he still had no intention of closing the forbidden technique. He continued to sacrifice his lifespan. Logically speaking, seeing the ancestral devil become like this, Qin Feiyong should be happy. However, his heart became heavier bit by bit. Because he had an ominous premonition. It felt like something terrible was about to happen. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but increase his speed as he waved the blood-red long sword. The sword qi tore through the sky, wanting to end the ancestral devil's life as soon as possible. Finally, as he wished, the ancestral devil's divine body was cut into 8 pieces. However, before he could breathe a sigh of relief, the ancestral devil's divine body was once again reconstructed, and his aura returned to its peak state. Is it over? If it's over, then I'll make a move to counterattack. The ancestral devil grinned. Scroll up to load next chapter. Chapter 1850. Begin the counterattack. Qin Feiyong's heart skipped a beat, and he said in a deep voice, "What do you mean? Could it be that you were just analyzing the power of the 6-word formula?" "That's right." Ancestor Mo nodded and asked, "Do you know what's above the perfect formula?" Qin Feiyong shook his head. The formula is divided into low grade, mid grade, high grade, perfect. Above the perfect divine arts are the peak divine arts. Above the peak formula, there is a stronger formula, and that is the legendary formula. Ancestor Mo said. I see. Qin Feiyong suddenly realized. Low grade, mid grade, high grade, perfect, peak, and legendary. In that case, Ancestor Mo's demonic dragon formula belonged to the peak formula. Ancestor Mo smiled. According to my analysis, your 6-word formula has already surpassed the peak formula and reached the legendary formula. That's not right. Qin Feiyong frowned. What's wrong? Ancestor Mo was slightly stunned and looked at him in confusion. If the 6-word divine formula is a legendary divine formula, then our strength should be comparable to it. Qin Feiyong pondered. Comparable? Ancestor Mo frowned. Yes. Your demonic dragon formula is also a peak formula. And now, you have activated the Demon King's body, and your cultivation is higher than mine by a small level. And this small level higher just makes up for the gap between the peak and the legendary formula. But now, why can't your demonic dragon formula block my 6-word formula? Qin Feiyong said. This? Ancestor Mo was stunned. Yes. If the 6-word formula is at the legendary level, then his peak formula can definitely compete with the 6-word formula. After all, his current cultivation is higher than Qin Feiyong. Wait, could it be? Ancestor Mo's body trembled as he stared at the blood-colored sword in Qin Feiyong's hand. This 6-word formula, has it surpassed the legendary level? Beyond the legendary level. What is above the legendary level? His heart was in disbelief. Qin Feiyong also lowered his head and looked at the blood-colored sword. From the current power, the 6-word formula has indeed surpassed the legendary level. Beyond the legendary formula. He really didn't expect that the 6-word formula he cultivated would be so terrifying. Wu Tian, what kind of existence is this person? Although there was no signature on the 6-word formula, the handwriting of the 6-word formula and the pill scripture were exactly the same. From this it could be seen. The 6-word formula must have been created by Wu Tian. Wait. Since the 6-word divine formula was created by Wu Tian, was the ancient castle also left behind by Wu Tian? Pill scripture, the 6-word formula, the ancient castle, they were all from this person. Also, if the ancient castle was really given to him by Wu Tian, then Song Shui must also have been given to him. Because back then, the ancient castle and Song Shui appeared together. Wu Tian, what is the relationship between him and him? Why did he give the castle and pale snow to him when he was born? M.O. Another doubt appeared in Qin Feiyong's mind. Miracle, Black Tortoise World. Miracle and Black Tortoise World were also created by Wu Tian. If everything was as he thought, then he and Wu Tian were definitely not enemies. After all, no one would give the ancient castle, Chong Shui, and the 6-word formula to an enemy. Since they were not enemies, why did the golden small beast and the ice dragon repeatedly try to kill him in the miracle? What was the reason for all of this? Beyond the legendary formula. Ha! The demon ancestor suddenly laughed like a madman. Qin Feiyong's contemplation was interrupted, and he muttered, "It seems that I can only wait until I enter the miracle again to find out all of this." Taking a deep breath, he temporarily put down these questions and looked up at the demon ancestor. The demon ancestor, who was laughing wildly, had a face full of jealousy. Why? It's actually a beyond the legendary formula. On what basis? What qualifications does he have to have such a heaven-defying formula? I refuse to accept it. The demon ancestor roared to the sky, looked down at Qin Feiyong, and laughed. I'll give you a choice. Less nonsense. Qin Feiyong shook the blood-colored long sword in his hand, and a terrifying murderous aura rushed towards the demon ancestor like a blood tide. 6-word killing formula. 7-word formula. The demon ancestor's eyes turned cold, and with a wave of his hand, a shocking sword chi cut through the sky and collided with the blood tide of murderous aura. Boom. The two were immediately destroyed in the void. What? 6-word killing formula. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Wasn't this Zhuge Mingyang's formula? More importantly, the power of this 7-word formula was actually comparable to the kill-word formula? The demon ancestor sneered. Can you listen to me now? Qin Feiyong's eyes were gloomy. The demon ancestor's 6-word killing formula was indeed the same as Zhuge Mingyang's 6-word killing formula. However, the power was completely different. Compared to Zhuge Mingyang, the demon ancestor was the sky, and the latter was the earth. The demon ancestor laughed. Hand over the 6-word divine formula. As long as you are willing to hand it over, when I rule the 2 continents in the future, I promise to treat the people well and leave some descendants for your Qin clan. No need. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, I'm more concerned about the 6-word divine formula. No need. Where did you get the courage to say such a thing? 7-word formula. The demon ancestor laughed. A 7-word appeared in the void, and with a destructive power, it rushed towards Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong took a step forward and slashed with his blood-colored long sword. Boom. Accompanied by a deafening sound, the 7-word shattered in the void. However, Qin Feiyong was also forced back. The blood-colored long sword in his hand also shattered into pieces with a clang. It's really neck and neck. Qin Feiyong's face was filled with disbelief. To be able to fight against the 6-word divine formula, it was obvious that the 6-word killing formula had surpassed the demon dragon formula and was a legendary level formula. Although the 6-word killing formula was still inferior to the 6-word divine formula in terms of level, the demon ancestor's cultivation was higher than his. In other words, the 6-word divine formula had lost its advantage in front of the demon ancestor. He couldn't figure out how the demon ancestor could have such a terrifying killing formula. The demon ancestor mocked, how powerful is the legendary level 6-word killing formula? What's going on with this 6-word killing formula? Qin Feiyong frowned. Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. However, there is one thing I can tell you. Zhuge Mingyang's 6-word killing formula was passed down to him by me. The demon ancestor said. Passed down? Qin Feiyong was surprised. That's right. It's not only the dead who can leave behind a legacy. The living can do the same. Just like your ancestor's demon dragon formula. The demon ancestor sneered. Qin Feiyong nodded in realization and said, in that case, can I also pass down the 6-word divine formula? Too naive. Leaving behind a legacy is not something everyone can do. You have to comprehend it thoroughly. In other words, only by completely comprehending a divine formula can you pass it down to others. Let me ask you, have you comprehended the 6-word divine formula? The demon ancestor said. Qin Feiyong was silent. The 6-word divine formula, he didn't comprehend it, but copied it. He didn't understand the profound meaning of it at all. However, he had already thoroughly comprehended the battle formula. Because back then, he relied on the battle formula to forcefully break through the shackles and step into the false god realm. In other words, among the 6-word divine formula, the only one that could be passed down was the battle formula. The demon ancestor said again, "Moreover, such a heaven-defying divine formula, are you willing to pass it down to others?" "Why not?" Qin Feiyong coldly snorted. The demon ancestor said, "If that's the case, then pass it down to me now." Qin Feiyong was stunned. "See, I still can't bear to." "Humans are all selfish," Yizichen said. "Don't make yourself sound so great." The demon ancestor mocked. When Qin Feiyong heard these words, he couldn't help but sneer. Such a despicable method of provocation could also lure him into a trap? Did he think he was an idiot? Looks like I still have to snatch it myself. Speed formula. The demon ancestor took a step forward, and his speed suddenly skyrocketed. Qin Feiyong also used the move formula and charged toward the demon ancestor. Soon, he discovered that the demon ancestor's current speed wasn't any slower than his. Just like what the inner demon said, how many more tricks did this person have up his sleeves? The two of them met in an instant. Boom. Clang. This was a confrontation of heaven-defying divine formulas. Whether it was Qin Feiyong's 6-word divine formula or the demon ancestor's 6-word killing formula, they were all displayed to the extreme. In the dark night sky, the rumbling sounds were endless, and the destructive aura roared in all directions. Not far away, the inner demons who was lying in the void was completely unaware of all this, and his heart fell into a deep darkness. But suddenly, his limp hands suddenly clenched into fists. "I'm the inner demons. The incarnation of evil. How can I be swallowed by despair? Get lost." He raised his head to look at the sky, and his blood-red eyes were like 2 blood moons. With a roar, a monstrous murderous aura burst out. What? The inner demons actually struggled out. The demon ancestor was shocked. Just how terrifying was the willpower of these 2 people? "You actually want to use despair to make me self-destruct? You're really naive." The inner demons retracted his gaze and turned to look at the demon ancestor, his blood-red eyes full of mockery. Whoosh! The next moment, he was like a killing god, using the move formula, and the murderous aura in his hand surged, condensing into a blood-red sword and charging toward the demon ancestor. The demon ancestor's heart sank. He thought that the inner demons would be swallowed by the eye of despair. This way, he only needed to face Qin Feiyong alone. But now, the inner demons had awakened. And the inner demon's strength was no less than Qin Feiyong's. In other words, once the inner demons joined the battle, the situation would immediately change. As expected, when the inner demons attacked, the demon ancestor was immediately in danger. At the same time, Sima Kuan, the woman in black, the wood Kirin, the golden Kirin, and the earth Kirin were also in danger. The blood Kirin had 2 supreme-grade artifacts, and its strength was no weaker than Sima Kuan's. So, in the face of the blood Kirin's crazy attack, Sima Kuan was already somewhat powerless. Needless to say, Tang Hai, with his terrifying speed, it was no problem for him to fight 1 against 2. Zhao Tailai's methods were relatively mediocre. But he had a spirit that refused to admit defeat, and his fighting spirit grew stronger the more he was defeated. It was this spirit and fighting spirit that made him not afraid of death, and his combat strength was at 120%. Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 1851. Xueqi was even more powerful. 1 against 6. Not only was he not at a disadvantage, but he was also suppressing the white-haired old man and the others. The portrait of 10,000 beasts was extremely terrifying. As for the golden divine leopard, it was also in a stalemate with the golden Qilin. Both of them had different degrees of injuries on their bodies. The The golden Qilin had a superior grade armor. But the golden divine leopard also had a divine artifact. This divine artifact was the divine bow that Qin Feiyong had snatched from the monkey-faced old man. This divine bow was comparable to the divine phoenix saber, which meant that it was also a superior grade divine artifact. The night was getting darker. But the battle on demonic Dragon Island was getting more and more intense. Whether it was the demon ancestor's side or Qin Feiyong's side, their divine power was rapidly depleting. At the same time, spiritual state. Butterfly Valley. The golden mermaid stood in the void with 7 pairs of wings flapping slowly. Like a demon god, it looked down coldly. Whoosh. Soon. 4 divine lights pierced through the sky and landed in front of the golden mermaid. On their backs, there were also 7 pairs of wings. That's right. They were the other 4 war gods of the mermaid clan. Black-winged mermaid. White-winged mermaid. How is it? The golden mermaid looked at the 4 of them and asked. One of the black-winged mermaids said, the teleportation altars of the other 8 states can't be activated either. What is the demon ancestor doing? Why didn't he protect such an important passage? The golden mermaid said angrily. But he didn't know that it was the demon ancestor who asked Zhuge Mingyang to destroy the teleportation altars in the imperial capital. What should we do now? The 4 of them looked at the golden mermaid. The golden mermaid pondered for a moment, and murderous intent surged in his eyes. He said coldly, since we can't kill our way into the imperial capital, then let's massacre the 9 states. When the 4 of them heard this, not only did they not object to the cruel method of the golden mermaid, they all laughed sinisterly. The golden mermaid waved his hand, and dozens of figures appeared in unison. Among these people, there were black-winged mermaids and white-winged mermaids. But without exception, they all had 6 pairs of wings. In other words, these dozens of mermaids were all false gods. Everyone, the time for revenge has come. Enjoy the slaughter to your heart's content. The golden mermaid laughed sinisterly. Kill. The dozens of mermaids immediately scattered and disappeared in all directions like lightning. They were all filled with murderous intent. The capital of the spiritual state was the first to bear the brunt. The 2 mermaids, one white and one black, were like death gods, descending upon the continent's capital. The aura of a false god shrouded the entire area. Late at night, the city had already quieted down. However, because of the arrival of these 2 people, the city instantly boiled over. However, before they could figure out what was going on, the might of a semi-divinity realm cultivator suddenly descended from the sky. Accompanied by despairing and miserable screams, the entire city was destroyed in an instant. Not a single person in the city was left alive. They were all buried. This was a night of bloodshed. There were people wailing and howling everywhere in the 9 great prefectures. Imperial capital. When midnight arrived, Old Man Qin couldn't wait to open the space-time gate and descend above Yuzhou's capital. He didn't come to the spiritual state because he was worried that the mermaids would gather in the Butterfly Valley. After all, the ocean of despair was in the spiritual state. When he arrived in the sky above Yuzhou City, a strong smell of blood immediately assaulted his nostrils. The old man's body shook violently. Did what he was worried about happen? He quickly lowered his head and looked down at the city below. What entered his sight was a scene that looked like a Jura hell. The city was torn apart and dilapidated. The streets were littered with corpses. Dazzling blood dyed the entire city red. Even the void was filled with a bloody mist that couldn't be dispersed. Why? Looking at this scene, Old Man Qin clenched his fists tightly, and tears flowed from his old eyes. What does this grudge have to do with these ordinary people? Why are they so cruel? Where is their humanity? Where is their conscience? Old Man Qin roared towards the sky. His angry hair danced in the air, and a monstrous murderous aura rushed out of his body. At the same time, his divine sense emerged and spread out in all directions. The entire Yuzhou was instantly covered by his spiritual will. The entire land of Yuzhou was littered with corpses and blood flowed like rivers. The tragic scene made one's hair stand on end. He even saw 6 mermaids madly slaughtering one village after another. The people living in those villages were all mortals who had no strength to truss a chicken. How could they do this? Damn it, all of you deserve to die. Old Man Qin roared into the sky, teleported, crossed the void, and rushed towards the 6 mermaids. Before leaving, Emperor Hong and the emperor warned him not to be impulsive. However, when he saw this scene, Old Man Qin immediately threw their warnings to the back of his mind. He couldn't bear it. Now, he only had one thought: kill all these inhumane beasts. Die, die. In the sky above a mountain, a white-winged mermaid crazily used the power of the pseudo-god to bombard the village below. In the village, there were hundreds of people, all ordinary people. However, in an instant, they were smashed into pieces by the power of the pseudo-god. Not even their bones were left. They didn't even have the chance to ask why they were killed. Awesome! After 10,000 years of silence, I can finally kill. All the people on this continent must die. In the future, there will only be us mermaids on this land. There will be no more humans. The mermaid laughed wildly. His spiritual will enveloped all directions, and he killed to the next village. But suddenly, he turned his head to look ahead, a trace of surprise crawling in his eyes. There was an aura approaching at an extremely fast speed. Moreover, it wasn't the aura of a mermaid, but the aura of a human. Human war god. Suddenly, with a quiver, he immediately took out the image crystal. The next moment, the phantom of the Golden Mermaid appeared. What's wrong? The Golden Mermaid asked. The white-winged mermaid said, I sense the aura of a human war god in Yuzhou, and it's coming towards me. Give me the coordinates. Then run away immediately. The Golden Mermaid said. Yes. The white-winged mermaid nodded. However, just as he told the Golden Mermaid the coordinates, an old figure teleported over and landed above him. It was Old Man Qin. You deserve to die. Old Man Qin looked at the Golden Mermaid and directly slapped the white-winged mermaid. Ah! Accompanied by a scream, the white-winged mermaid's body shattered, and blood splashed across the sky. Damn it, you dare to kill my clansman. Butterfly Valley. The Golden Mermaid roared again and again, immediately opening the portal and rushing in. At the same time, Old Man Qin also opened a teleportation door and walked in without looking back. Although he was extremely angry at this moment, he did not lose his mind because of this. The other party had 5 war gods. If he faced them head-on, he would definitely die. Therefore, he was prepared to fight a guerrilla war. The other party was a war god, and so was he. The other party could open a portal, and so could he. As long as he did not confront them head-on, the other party could not do anything to him. Whoosh! When the Golden Mermaid and the other 4 arrived in Yuzhou, Old Man Qin killed another black-winged mermaid. Bang! Seeing that Old Man Qin had disappeared, the 5 of them were furious and immediately released their divine senses, enveloping the entire Yuzhou. Sensing their divine senses, Old Man Qin decisively gave up the idea of continuing to chase the other mermaids in Yuzhou. He opened the portal and entered Feng State. Because if he continued to stay in Yuzhou, sooner or later, he would be surrounded by the 5 of them. After all, their divine senses had already locked onto him. And each of the 9 major states was very big. Even for a beginner war god, the maximum range of their divine senses could only cover 1 state. Therefore, now that Old Man Qin had changed his position and entered Feng State, their divine senses could no longer lock onto him. In short, no matter what price he had to pay today, he had to kill all the mermaids. Damn it! Seeing that Old Man Qin had disappeared, the Golden Mermaid was burning with anger. This is not good. After entering the portal, he did not appear in our divine senses, which means that he has already left Yuzhou. Apart from Yuzhou, there are 8 other states. How do we find him? He is obviously trying to fight a guerrilla war with us. The other 4 mermaids also had worried looks on their faces. Split up and search. No matter what, we have to find him. The Golden Mermaid shouted, his eyes full of resentment. Big brother, calm down. Even if we split up and search, we can only go to 5 states at the same time. Moreover, we don't know if there are other war gods hiding in the 9 major states. If there are, once we split up, won't we be defeated by them one by one? This method is definitely not reliable. I think we should immediately recall all our clansmen and gather at Butterfly Valley, waiting for him to walk into the trap. A black-winged mermaid said. I agree. The 18 counties of the 9 states have almost been massacred by our clansmen. He will definitely not let it go. He will definitely find a way to kill us for revenge. Another black-winged mermaid also said. The golden mermaid calmed down, pondered for a moment, and nodded. Okay, as you said. Immediately go to the major states and gather our clansmen at Butterfly Valley. After saying that, he added, be loud, let that old man know that we are going to Butterfly Valley. Understood. The four immediately opened the portal and disappeared. All clansmen, go to Butterfly Valley immediately. For a moment. In the sky above the 9 major states, a loud roar sounded and spread in all directions. In a remote corner of Feng Prefecture, Old Man Qin stood on a ruin, his blood-stained long robe fluttering in the wind. And right at his feet, there were 3 black-winged mermaids at the pseudo-god level, all of them dead. In addition, there were dozens of villagers, but they were also dead. Go to Butterfly Valley. Old Man Qin looked at the distant sky and heard the voice echoing between heaven and earth. His eyes flashed with a bloody light. They even knew to recall their clansmen. These mermaids weren't idiots. If he continued to fight like this, he was confident that it wouldn't be long before he could kill all the pseudo-god level mermaids. However, this was indeed not easy to deal with. All the mermaids were gathered at Butterfly Valley. And they didn't hide it at all. It was obvious. These mermaids were deliberately telling him that they were all in Butterfly Valley. If you have the ability, come. After a while, Old Man Qin retracted his gaze and glanced at the villagers who had died with their eyes wide open. He muttered, Fei Yong, Emperor Hong, Your Majesty, you have repeatedly warned me not to be impulsive. But seeing such a scene, how can I remain indifferent? Old Man Qin opened the portal again and entered He Prefecture. Divine sense emerged and covered all directions. All he could see were shattered mountains and rivers, blood-red earth, and endless sea of corpses. Genius remembered the address of this site in a second. Top Point Mobile Version Reading Website, M. Chapter 1852. Why do they have to be so crazy? Elder Qin murmured and headed to the other states. Without exception, all of them were plunged into misery and suffering. In the end, apart from the spiritual state, he went to all of them. There were a total of 8 prefectures, and who knew how many billions of people there were. But now, the number of survivors added up to less than 10,000 people. The only reason these people were able to survive was because they were all mortals and lived far away from the city. Why kill these innocent people? What did they do wrong? Elder Qin stepped into the air and walked towards the spiritual state step by step. The other 8 states had suffered such destruction, let alone the spiritual state. Unsurprisingly, in the current spiritual state, apart from the mermaids, there was probably no one alive. As expected, when Elder Qin entered the spiritual state, everywhere he went, he saw corpses and broken limbs. Why is this happening? In the end, he stopped above the city and knelt in the void in pain. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. We were incompetent and couldn't protect you. My heart hurts so much. Elder Qin grabbed the clothes in front of his chest, his face twisted to the extreme. After a long time, he got up and looked in the direction of the Butterfly Valley, saying, Fei Yong, don't worry about fighting the demon ancestor. The fate of the mermaid clan will be ended by me. After saying that, he took a step forward and walked towards the Butterfly Valley. Butterfly Valley. The 5 golden mermaids stood side by side and glanced at their clansmen standing in the void opposite them. These people's bodies were all covered in blood. The murderous light in their eyes still did not dissipate. Fortunately, we only lost 11 people. The 4 of them looked at the golden mermaids and smiled. Fortunately? The golden mermaids were furious and shouted at the 4 of them. We only have 51 pseudo-gods in total, and now we have lost 11 people. How can you still laugh? The 4 of them looked at each other and lowered their heads helplessly. When there was war, there would definitely be casualties. How could they be unscathed? 5 ancestors. Who is that old thing? Those pseudo-god level mermaids looked at the 5 of them suspiciously. The golden mermaid said, No matter who it is, they are the enemy of our mermaid clan. What about the demon ancestor? Someone asked. The demon ancestor is too strong. We cannot fall out with him for now. However, I will kill him sooner or later. At that time, this continent will belong to our mermaid race. As for the humans in the imperial capital, either kill them all or become our slaves. The Golden Mermaid grinned. I prefer the latter. In the past, these damned humans enslaved us and traded us like goods. Now, it's our turn to enslave them. Some of the mermaids grinned hideously. Don't worry, the era that belongs to us merfolk is coming soon. The Golden Mermaid said. Boom. Suddenly, a terrifying aura, which gradually grew stronger, rolled over from the void in the distance. The group of mermaids raised their eyebrows and looked up. An old man could be seen walking in the air step by step. His murderous aura covered the entire area like a vast ocean. He actually came, and he's alone. He's got guts. With a wave of his hand, the 40 demigod-rank mermaids disappeared. Obviously, the Golden Mermaid sent them all to the space divine item. 10,000 years ago, the previous emperor could have exterminated your clan. However, out of consideration for the goodness of the heavens, he let you go and even gave you a place to live. Why did you repay kindness with enmity? Elder Qin had already arrived outside the Butterfly Valley and looked at the 5 of them. A place to live? What a joke. May I ask, in what way is our mermaid race worse than you humans? What right do you have to occupy such a large continent, while our merfolk race has to hole up in a tiny place like the Sea of Despair? The Golden Mermaid sneered. Elder Qin entered the Butterfly Valley and looked at the 5 of them in disappointment. He sighed. I really don't know why the late emperor didn't kill you all back then. Haha. That's because he was stupid. He thought that if he let us go, we would be grateful to him. No. We will only hate him more. Our mermaid race is born to be kings. Why should we be at his mercy? And my father, for the sake of the continuation of the mermaid race, had no choice but to follow him. All these years, even in my dreams, I have been thinking about destroying the great Qin Empire and everything he left behind. The Golden Mermaid laughed sinisterly. Father? Elder Qin was stunned and asked suspiciously. You are? I am the son of the first mermaid emperor. The 4 beside me are also the sons of the first black-winged emperor and white-winged emperor. The Golden Mermaid said. Elder Qin glanced at the 5 of them and looked up at the dark night sky. Sorrow came from his heart. Late Emperor, do you see this? This is all the trouble you left behind. Your kindness and benevolence are the fortune of the great Qin Empire and the blessing of the people. However, being merciful to the enemy is being cruel to yourself. If you could be ruthless back then and eliminate the root of the problem, how could the people of the great Qin Empire be killed by them now? Elder Qin roared sorrowfully, his heart aching. He is already dead. Can he hear what you're saying? However, I admire your courage. You knew that we had 5 war gods, but you still dared to come to Butterfly Valley alone. The Golden Mermaid sneered. Killing intent flashed in the eyes of the other 4. Elder Qin turned a deaf ear and looked at the night sky quietly. 2 drops of tears slowly fell from the corners of his eyes. How sad. There are still people in this world who are so loyal to the great Qin Empire. The Golden Mermaid shook his head. Elder Qin retracted his gaze and looked down at the 5 of them. Do ungrateful people like you know what loyalty and sincerity are? You don't understand at all, and you won't understand the pain in my heart at this moment. The 5 of them sneered. Old Man Qin's gaze suddenly became fierce as he said, I dared to come here alone because I had no intention of leaving alive. Not bad. The Golden Mermaid nodded in praise. The fate of the mermaid race has come to an end. Die with the people of the great Qin Empire. Elder Qin suddenly roared, and a destructive aura rushed out of his body. Rumble. Crack. This place instantly collapsed, and the void collapsed. What? This is self-detonation. Have you gone mad? The 5 of them changed color and roared in shock and anger. Yes. Looking at the people of the 9 prefectures lying in pools of blood, I have long gone mad. Go to hell now and repent for the sins you have committed. Elder Qin roared. Quick, run. The Golden Mermaid roared. Boom. But at this moment, suddenly, 2 terrifying divine auras emerged from the depths of the Butterfly Valley. Following closely behind, 2 figures shattered the ground and rushed into the void. The 5 mermaid patriarchs turned to look at the 2 people, their faces full of shock and doubt. Elder Qin looked at the 2 people with a face full of shock. It was a man and a woman. The woman was a beautiful woman wearing a golden battle armor. Her long black hair was tied together, and her aura was incomparably powerful. However, there were cracks on the golden battle armor and it was stained with blood. The other person was an old man in black with a scar above his left eye and bloodstains all over his body. These two people were none other than the mysterious Madam and Yi Shu. When the mysterious Madam and Yi Shu appeared and saw Elder Qin and the 5 mermaid patriarchs, they were a little stunned. But soon, they were awakened by the destructive aura emitted by Elder Qin at this moment. They said in shock and anger, "Elder Qin, what are you doing?" Elder Qin immediately stopped self-detonating and looked at the two with tears in his eyes. The two of them flew to Elder Qin's side like lightning. The mysterious Madam glanced at the 5 mermaid patriarchs and frowned. "You self-detonated because of them?" Yi Shu asked. "Why do they all have wings?" "They are mermaids," Elder Qin said. "Mermaids?" The mysterious Madam and Yi Shu looked at each other, their eyes full of shock. Mermaids with 7 pairs of wings. Wasn't that the god of war? Elder Qin cried out in grief. They colluded with the demon ancestor and massacred the 9 prefectures. What? The mysterious Madam was furious. She looked at the 5 of them and shouted, "The Qin Emperor once told me about the situation of the mermaid clan. How could you do this? Who are you? What right do you have to interfere with our business?" The Golden Mermaid frowned. "Who am I?" Even the first Mermaid Emperor, the Black-Winged Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor, had to respectfully call me Madam. The mysterious Madam's body trembled, and a terrifying divine aura erupted. God of War. The Golden Mermaid's pupils shrank. But what surprised him the most was what the mysterious Madam said. Even his father had to respectfully call her Madam? Where did this woman come from? Elder Qin glanced at the 5 of them, then looked at the mysterious Madam and sighed. They are the children of the first Mermaid Emperor, the Black-Winged Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor. I see. The mysterious Madam suddenly understood and raised her eyebrows. Your fathers have all followed the Qin Emperor. Why are you rebelling? The Golden Mermaid said angrily, I said it's none of your business. You'd better get lost immediately, or don't blame us for being rude. How stubborn. The mysterious Madam snorted coldly and looked at Elder Qin. So you plan to self-detonate and die with them? Elder Qin nodded. Where's Fei Yong? Why doesn't he care about this? The mysterious Madam said angrily. It's not that Fei Yong doesn't care, it's that he can't. Because right now, he and his subordinates are fighting a bloody battle with the demon ancestor in the Sea of Reincarnation. Elder Qin sighed. The mysterious Madam said in shock, the demon ancestor has successfully fused with the divine body? Yes. And according to the inner demons, the demon ancestor's strength is far beyond their expectations. The demon ancestor has already given us enough headaches, but I didn't expect the mermaid clan to take advantage of the chaos to come out and cause trouble. How hateful! Elder Qin clenched his fists, and his eyes were full of anger. The mysterious Madam glanced at the 5 mermaid ancestors and said in a deep voice, It seems that the situation in the Great Qin Empire is more serious than the situation in the Forgotten Continent. What? Elder Qin was shocked. Please remember the domain name of this book. Literature Library Mobile Version Website. Chapter 1853. The mysterious lady sighed. Just an hour ago, Mu Tianjun successfully fused with his divine body and launched a fierce attack on our main tower. Old Man Qin asked, What about Mu Tianyang? Mu Tianyang hasn't appeared yet. He used up a lot of his divine sense in the divine ruin. It will probably take some time before he comes out. The mysterious lady said. Then why are you here? Old Man Qin looked at the two of them suspiciously. Mu Tianjun is a low-tier war god and has a supreme-grade divine artifact. With Mu Chongyun and Mu Chongfeng, our main tower is really... Sigh. Speaking of which. The mysterious lady let out a long sigh, her face full of worry. Old Man Qin looked at the two of them in shock, speechless. I thought you were here to support us. So you're here to take refuge. We can't even protect ourselves. How can we spare the energy to support you? Actually, we came this time to ask for your help. But looking at your situation, it seems like you're not much better than us. Yi Shu smiled bitterly. Old Man Qin could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. The two continents were in danger at the same time. This was really not good news. The mysterious lady pondered for a moment and asked, "Against the demon ancestor, is Qin Feiyang confident?" "I don't know." Old man Qin shook his head, then clenched his hands and said firmly, "But I believe that the final winner will be us." "If that's the case," the mysterious lady's eyes flashed and she shouted, "Yi Shu, go and destroy the legendary altar immediately." "Miss, what do you mean?" Yi Shu was surprised. "Yes. First help Fei Yong to pacify the great Qin Empire, then we'll kill our way back to the Forgotten Continent together," the mysterious lady said. Yi Shu gritted his teeth and immediately rushed down. Old man Qin glanced at Yi Shu's back, then looked at the mysterious madam and said, "The reason I came from the imperial capital this time was to destroy the teleportation altar here. We were worried that Mu Tianyang would bring his men here at this time." The mysterious lady said, "So if we came one step later, we wouldn't be able to enter the great Qin Empire?" "Yes. Once I self-destruct, the entire Butterfly Valley, including the teleportation altar, will be destroyed. So you came just in time. However, even though destroying the altar will stop Mu Tianyang, what about the other people in the Forgotten Continent?" Old man Qin frowned. This teleportation altar was the only entrance to the Forgotten Continent. Once it was destroyed, the entire Forgotten Continent would become a sealed cage. If Mu Tianyang started a massacre in the Forgotten Continent, the people of the Forgotten Continent would have nowhere to run. Knowing that Mu Tianyang was hiding in the Forgotten Continent, how could I not have made preparations? Yesterday morning, after you returned to Great Qin, we immediately returned to the Central Divine Kingdom and moved everyone from the main tower into the Spatial Divine Item, the mysterious lady said. Old man Qin asked, "What about the people from the 9 regions and the super tribes?" "I can't do anything about that. After all, our spatial items are limited, and we are unable to accommodate everyone from the Forgotten Continent," the mysterious lady said. "Then Old man Qin exclaimed, "Don't forget, this is war. War is merciless," the mysterious lady said. Old man Qin fell silent. Rumble. Suddenly, a deafening sound rang out from below. Whoosh. Immediately after, Yi Shu rushed out and said with lingering fear, "Fortunately, I arrived in time. Otherwise, Mu Tianyang would have already brought people here." When they first entered the secret chamber, the teleportation altar was already recovering. Obviously, someone on the Forgotten Continent was recovering the altar. And now, the only person who could recover the altar was the Mu family. Since the teleportation altar has been destroyed, then prepare for battle. The mysterious lady took a step forward, and divine power surged out. The golden armor on her body was quickly repaired. Obviously, this armor was transformed from a divine art. She looked up at the 5 mermaid ancestors, and her eyes were extremely sharp. "I have seen your fathers, and they are all loyal and righteous people. What you are doing, isn't it the same as shaming them?" "You have seen them all?" The 5 mermaid ancestors looked at each other and frowned. The golden mermaid said in a deep voice, "Who are you?" The mysterious lady said, "Listen carefully, my name is Tantai Li, the 3rd main tower master of the Forgotten Continent." "You are Tantai Li." The 5 were shocked. The mysterious lady said, "It seems that you have heard of my name. Back then, my father told me about you, saying that you are a woman that the Qin Emperor met on the Forgotten Continent. However, although you are the Qin Emperor's woman, it seems that you have no status." The golden mermaid joked. "So what?" the mysterious lady shouted, and she was a little angry. In this life, she hated to hear the words, "no status" the most. "So what? If you don't have a title, it means that you're just a toy that was toyed with and then abandoned." The golden mermaid laughed. "You are courting death." The mysterious lady's eyes flashed with a cold light. "With just the 3 of you?" The golden mermaid smiled contemptuously. "What a few poor frogs at the bottom of the well." The mysterious lady waved her hand, and the monkey-faced old man and the hook-nosed old man appeared out of thin air. "What?" The 5 mermaid ancestors' pupils contracted. 2 more war gods had appeared. In other words, there were a total of 4 war gods on the Forgotten Continent. Why didn't the demon ancestor tell them such an important thing? In fact, The demon ancestor didn't expect that the mysterious lady would bring people here. Moreover, in his eyes, the mermaid clan was just a pawn that would be eliminated after he finished using them. Insulting the young lady is insulting us and the entire forgotten continent. Be prepared to suffer our wrath. The monkey-faced old man and the hook-nosed old man were both hot-tempered. As soon as they appeared, they charged toward the five with murderous intent. I will personally tear your mouth apart so that you will never be able to speak again. The mysterious lady also charged toward the golden mermaid, her eyes flashing with a bone-chilling light. Yi Shu was also like a mad beast, charging straight at a black-winged merman. In his eyes, the mysterious lady was the heavens. Anyone who dared to insult the mysterious lady was his enemy. There is hope for the great Qin. Elder Qin glanced at the four of them, and tears welled up in his eyes. The mysterious lady and the other three were not only his saviors, but also the saviors of the entire great Qin. Fei Yong, you must defeat the demon ancestor. With a roar, Elder Qin also unleashed a shocking murderous intent toward a white-winged mermaid. A battle between gods began in the spiritual state. Demonic Dragon Island. Fierce battles were still going on in various battlefields. This was a battle between gods. In a situation where both sides were evenly matched, it was common for them to fight for 3 days and 3 nights. Whether it was Qin Fei Yong's side or the demon ancestor's side, they were all covered in scars. Almost half of their divine power had been exhausted. However, in comparison, the demon ancestor's side was more seriously injured. The white-haired old man and the others were all short of arms and legs. The golden Qilin, the wood Qilin, and the earth Qilin had several bloody holes on their huge bodies, and their divine blood dyed the sky red. Even Sima Kuan was on the verge of death. I don't understand. I really don't understand. Our strength is about the same, so why do you hold the scales of victory? Sima Kuan roared. I didn't understand before either. But after interacting with Qin Fei Yong and the others, I finally understood. This is the power of unity, the power of trust. You will never understand this power. The blood Qilin roared. Every time the Dragon Vein Sword and the Wind Moon Pavilion collided, it would cause a large area of destruction. Clang! Rumble! Above the Death Sea. The battle between Qin Fei Yong and the inner demons and the demon ancestor was even more terrifying. One side was using the step formula, the other side was using the speed formula. The three of them flickered in the sky and kept exchanging blows. Their speed was faster than lightning. Not to mention beginner and beginner war gods. Even Deshang war gods would not be able to see their figures at this moment. They could only hear the deafening sounds of collisions. After such a long battle, Qin Fei Yong and the inner demons looked a little weak. They were covered in wounds and dripping with blood. On the other hand, the demon ancestor. There was not a single injury on his body. However, at this moment, he looked like an old man in his 70s with white hair. His face was also full of wrinkles. His originally full and strong body was now emaciated. This was caused by excessive consumption of lifespan. Ever since the inner demons joined the battle, he had been using forbidden techniques, and his lifespan was constantly decreasing. Even if he was a war god, he could not withstand such consumption. The inner demons secretly laughed. Looks like we don't need to use the ultimate method to get rid of him. Don't be careless. Although the demon ancestor is already an arrow at the end of its flight, there is still Snowflake. Qin Fei Yong transmitted his voice. Snowflake. The inner demon's bloody eyes flashed with a hint of hostility, secretly laughing. If it knows what's good for it, it's best not to make a move. Otherwise, today will not only be the end of the demon ancestor, but also its end. Regardless of whether Snowflake will make a move or not, unless we have no other choice, we must not use the ultimate method. Qin Fei Yong secretly said. I know. I don't need you to remind me again and again. The inner demon stared at him impatiently and raised its head to look at the demon ancestor. It laughed. Let's see how much lifespan you have left to consume. The blood-colored longsword in its hand was overflowing with bloody light. Qin Fei Yong flashed and rushed behind the demon ancestor. He also controlled the blood-colored longsword and slashed it. The two long swords tore through the sky, their sharpness shocking the world. Shatter word formula. Shatter for me. The demon ancestor waved his hands, and two pitch-black shatter characters appeared in the sky, carrying a terrifying destructive force as they blasted toward the two blood-colored long swords. The moment they met, the two blood-colored longswords immediately shattered into pieces in the void. The shatter word formula was one of the 6 killing techniques. No matter what kind of technique it was, it could shatter into pieces in an instant. The demon ancestor had used the shatter word formula more than once. However, at the same time that the blood-colored longswords shattered, the inner demons in Qin Feiyong snorted coldly at the same time. The divine light under their feet surged, and in an instant, they rushed in front and behind the demon ancestor. They raised their fists and attacked. Poof! The demon ancestor's chest and back were fiercely bombarded at the same time. The demon ancestor immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body was torn apart. Please remember the domain name of this book. Literature Museum mobile reading website. Chapter 1854. Whether it was Qin Feiyong or the inner demons, they both had the strength to fight the demon ancestor alone, let alone the two of them working together. However, although this blow was enough to be fatal, under the recovery of the forbidden technique, the demon ancestor's injuries were healed in an instant. However, his face also seemed to have aged a little. I am immortal. Defense formula. The demon ancestor roared in the sky, his white hair fluttering in the wind. Demonic mist billowed, and a set of black armor appeared on his body. Coupled with the horns on his head and the wings on his back, he looked more like a demon king at this moment. Defense formula, does it mean defense? Qin Feiyong and the inner demons looked at each other, and a set of blood-red armor appeared on their bodies at the same time. As soon as the blood-red armor appeared, the weakness between their eyebrows instantly dissipated. Their battle intent broke through the clouds. This is... The demon ancestor was surprised. Not only did his appearance become old, but even his voice became hoarse. This is the current form of the battle formula. A defensive armor that can even withstand the heavenly tribulation. Qin Feiyong and the inner demons smiled coldly. Their black and blood-red hair fluttered in the wind, as if two gods of war had descended. Battle formula. The demon ancestor muttered and suddenly used the speed formula, escaping into the sky. Want to escape? Qin Feiyong and the inner demons immediately chased after him. But suddenly, the demon ancestor stopped again, turned to face the two, and said in a hoarse voice, "Your strength is really more and more beyond my imagination. If this continues, I will be defeated by your hands sooner or later. Since you know, then quickly surrender." The inner demons sneered. Surrender without a fight? The demon ancestor muttered to himself, and a trace of ridicule gradually crept up on his old face. Do you really think that victory is on your side? Qin Feiyong's pupils shrank. Could it be that this person was still hiding other means? My foundation is something you will never be able to imagine. The demon ancestor roared into the sky. Clang! Accompanied by an earth-shattering sound, two black demonic lights swept out from between his eyebrows. They were an ancient pagoda and a great hall. Do you know what they are? They are the Demon Tower and the Demon Palace. The people you care about are all here. Like your mother Lu Qiuyu, Yan Wei, Jiang Zhengyi, and Old Man Ren. The demon ancestor laughed. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and said, You still want to use them to threaten us? No, no, no. You killed Lu Yun and Monarch Chen with your own hands. Threatening them is no longer a viable option. The demon ancestor shook his head. Then what do you want to do? Qin Feiyong said. To open to watch. Because a legendary divine artifact is about to be born. The demon ancestor laughed. What? Legendaries. Qin Feiyong looked at each other, then looked at the Demon Tower and the Demon Palace again, their eyes full of surprise. The demon ancestor waved his hand, and the Demon Tower and the Demon Palace rose into the air, emitting a monstrous demonic light. Following closely, the Demon Tower, accompanied by a loud rumble, sat on top of the Demon Palace. Immediately, the Demon Tower and the Demon Palace merged together. That demonic power also immediately soared several times. The Demon Palace is actually a part of the Demon Tower, but it was separated by Qin Batian back then and turned into two divine artifacts. No. It turned into 3 divine artifacts. Because the Demon Crystal is also a part of the Demon Tower. The demon ancestor laughed wildly, and the Demon Crystal also rushed out from his body, like a black lightning, and instantly rushed to the top of the demon tower. Immediately, with a clang, the demon crystal was embedded on the top of the tower. Boom! The aura of the demon tower also soared again. So that's how it is, Qin Feiyong muttered. In the past, he had been wondering why the power of the demon crystal was so weak. It turned out that it was only a part of the demon tower. Did you notice that the current demon tower is exactly the same as the stone tower in the demon statue's hand? The inner demons secretly said. Demon statue? Qin Feiyong was stunned, and a demon statue involuntarily appeared in his mind. This demon statue was the third move of the demon dragon secret art, the Lord of all demons. He carefully compared the stone tower in the demon statue's hand and the demon tower in front of him were exactly the same. Do you think that the demon ancestor's demon tower, the ancestor's broken sword, and Lu Zhengyang's long spear are divine artifacts of the same level? The inner demons secretly asked. How would I know? However, Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said in a low voice. However, these three divine artifacts must be very important to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have integrated these three divine artifacts into the third form when they created the Demon Dragon Secret Art, Divine Dragon Secret Art, and Fire Phoenix Secret Art. Demon Tower. Awaken. Just as the two were communicating telepathically, the demon ancestor laughed wildly, and his divine power madly poured into the demon tower. Boom! A destructive aura rushed out of the demonic pagoda like a volcanic eruption. Qin Feiyong and the demon ancestor looked at each other. Clang! Murderous intent surged, and the blood-red long sword appeared again. Qin Feiyong charged toward the demon ancestor. The inner demons charged toward the demon tower. It's useless, it's useless. The demon ancestor laughed. The extermination symbol art appeared and blasted toward Qin Feiyong. The demon tower blasted toward the inner demons. Boom! In the end, it was a situation where both sides suffered. The demon tower was a legendary divine artifact, and coupled with the demon ancestor's cultivation, its power in a fully awakened state was not inferior to the inner demons. In other words, it was no longer 1 against 2, but 2 against 2. The demon ancestor also finally closed the forbidden technique. Looking at Qin Feiyong and the demon ancestor, he laughed. The real battle begins now. Even with the demon tower, it can't change your ending. The inner demons shouted. Is that so? The demon ancestor's divine sense emerged and pounced in all directions. The situation of the major battlefields entered his sight one by one, and his expression suddenly showed a trace of anger. I didn't expect that my subordinates would be so weak. The demon ancestor coldly snorted, but the corner of his mouth immediately pursed into a mocking smile. Looking at Qin Feiyong and the demon ancestor, he said, however, your so-called advantage will soon disappear. After saying that, the demon ancestor waved his hand, and a golden figure appeared beside him. It was a woman with a peerless appearance. She wore a pale golden dress, and her long golden hair fluttered in the wind like a waterfall. It's her. Qin Feiyong's gaze trembled. The woman in front of him was the mermaid princess. However, when seeing Qin Feiyong and the inner demons, the mermaid princess's eyes were extremely cold. This gaze made Qin Feiyong's heart ache faintly. The demon ancestor smiled mockingly, looked at the mermaid princess, and said with a smile, Go and activate your battle soul, let them see how terrifying you are. Yes, master. The mermaid princess nodded and coldly glanced at Qin Feiyong and the demon ancestor. She then soared into the sky and stood at the top of the clouds. That pale golden dress, that soft long hair, fluttered slowly in the wind. From afar, she looked like a fairy. Even the dark night sky was lit up because of her existence. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at the mermaid princess. The memories that had been sealed for a long time appeared in his mind one by one. Back then, in the Sea of Despair, he had spent 4 months with the mermaid princess. He still remembered every single detail that had happened. It was also at that time that he developed feelings for the mermaid princess. But because he carried too much on his shoulders, he had to bury this feeling in his heart. He thought about it. When everything was settled, he would go and find her. But he did not expect that when they met again, they would become strangers. Deity, now is not the time to be sentimental. Sensing the emotional fluctuations in Qin Feiyong's heart, the inner demons raised his eyebrows and secretly shouted. Qin Feiyong came back to his senses, took a deep breath and said, I know. Good that you know. I will restrain the demon ancestor and the demon pagoda. You go and kill her. The inner demon said. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded and immediately used the step formula, rushing toward the mermaid princess. You won't even let go of the woman you love. You are really ruthless. But I will not let you succeed. The demon ancestor smiled sinisterly and immediately used the speed formula to block Qin Feiyong's path. Your opponent is me. The inner demons roared and instantly rushed over, throwing a punch at the demon ancestor. Clang. However, his fist landed on the demonic pagoda. Because when he attacked the demon ancestor, the demon pagoda also flew in front of the demon ancestor and blocked the punch. Emperor Prison. The inner demons was furious. The purple gold dragon's soul roared and the Emperor Prison instantly opened. The demon ancestor's eyes suddenly became dull. Obviously, his consciousness was temporarily taken away by the Emperor Divine Prison. Although the demon pagoda was a divine artifact, it had already given birth to a spirit. With a spirit it would have consciousness. Naturally, it could not escape the fate of being deprived and immediately stopped in the void, motionless. Now quickly! The inner demons shouted. Qin Feiyong leaped and rushed toward the mermaid princess like lightning, murmuring, Although I don't want to hurt you, I have to do this now. I am sorry. However, seeing Qin Feiyong approaching like lightning, the mermaid princess was not nervous at all. Her expression was as cold as ever. I am sorry. Qin Feiyong arrived in front of the mermaid princess and murmured again. He raised his arm and a trace of divine power shot out from his index finger. Like an arrow, it went straight toward the mermaid princess's forehead. At this moment, the demon ancestor and the demon pagoda regained consciousness. She is my trump card. How can I let you kill her so easily? The demon ancestor lowered his head and murmured. Not only was there no panic in his eyes, it was instead filled with mockery. Boom! Seeing that Qin Feiyong's divine power was about to enter the mermaid princess's forehead, a terrifying killing intent suddenly shot out from the mermaid princess's forehead and blasted toward the divine power. With a loud bang, the divine power shattered on the spot. This scene was too unexpected. Qin Feiyong did not even have time to react. After the killing intent shattered the divine power, it blasted onto the blood-red armor on Qin Feiyong's body. Clang! Although the killing intent came suddenly, it did not cause any actual damage to Qin Feiyong. Because the armor formed by the battle character art could help him block 90% of the damage. This was a terrifying number. The battle character art is indeed extraordinary. The demon ancestor muttered as he stepped out and forcefully broke the imprisonment of the Emperor Divine Prison. Don't even think about it. The inner demons shouted as they stood in front of the demon ancestor and the demon pagoda. No matter what, they had to buy time for Qin Feiyong to get rid of the mermaid princess. Because the mermaid princess's innate divine power was too terrifying. The Eye of Life, flesh and bones. And it was an indiscriminate, large-scale healing ability. If she was allowed to successfully activate her innate divine power, not only him and Qin Feiyong, but even Zhao Tailai and the others would be in danger. Genius remembered this address in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1855. You. The demon ancestor looked at the inner demons, raised his hand, shook his finger and said, You can't stop me. Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, a dozen doppelgangers appeared beside the demon ancestor and charged toward the inner demons. At the same time, the demon pagoda also blasted toward the inner demons with a monstrous demonic aura. Mere doppelgangers, what can you do to me? The inner demons laughed. Look carefully, are we really just doppelgangers? The dozen doppelgangers immediately let out a terrifying grin. As they spoke, the doppelgangers actually activated their Demon King physique. This is... The inner demon's eyes trembled, full of disbelief. These were not doppelgangers, but incarnations. And 3,000 incarnations. But how was this possible? Just as the inner demons were distracted, the demon ancestor rushed toward Qin Feiyong like lightning. Qin Feiyong looked down at the demon ancestor, raised his arm again, and pointed in the air. A wave of divine power roared out and instantly drowned the mermaid princess. Ah! A scream immediately resounded through the night sky.
Hey!
However, the demon ancestor was not anxious at all. Instead, he stopped and grinned. Qin Feiyong frowned. The demon ancestor's current behavior was too abnormal. Do you think she's really the mermaid princess? The demon ancestor suddenly laughed. What do you mean? Qin Feiyong was surprised. The demon ancestor joked, she's just an ordinary woman in Shanghai in disguise. Are you kidding me? Qin Feiyong was furious.
Yes, I'm kidding you.
Watching you and the inner demons crazily trying to kill her, it's really interesting. The demon ancestor laughed. Since she's from Shanghai, I'll destroy her body and soul. Qin Feiyong shouted angrily. Originally, he planned to kill the mermaid princess first and resurrect her later. However, in order to revive, he needed flesh and blood. At the very least, he had to preserve a drop of the mermaid princess blood. However, he did not expect that this woman was not the mermaid princess at all. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to show mercy. Go ahead. The fiend ancestor waved his hand nonchalantly. The mockery on his face grew thicker. There was even a hint of playfulness in his eyes. Something's wrong. Qin Feiyong looked at Demon Alpha's expression and felt a strong sense of unease. Suddenly, with a wave of his hand, the godly power dissipated. The fake mermaid princess had died long ago. Only some flesh and blood remained, floating in the void. Why did you stop? Could it be that he has already noticed something? The demon ancestor raised his eyebrows. He suddenly attacked. A wave of divine power surged out and pounced on the remaining flesh. Sure enough, there's a problem. Qin Feiyong's heart trembled, and he quickly waved his hand, sending the remaining flesh and blood to the castle. Seeing this, the demon ancestor said angrily, I can't believe I didn't succeed. How infuriating. Who the hell is she? Qin Feiyong shouted. The demon ancestor smiled sinisterly. She is Ren Wushuang.
What?
It's actually my sister. Qin Feiyong's face turned pale. I know your character. In the end, you will definitely open the gate of rebirth and resurrect those relatives and friends you killed with your own hands. Similarly, I also know the necessary conditions to resurrect them. This necessary condition requires at least something from them, such as blood and hair. So previously, I secretly asked Lin Yi to disguise Ren Wushuang into the appearance of the mermaid princess, so that you could kill her with your own hands and destroy her bones. In this way, you can no longer resurrect her in the future. When you know the truth, you will definitely be in so much pain that you will hate yourself to death. But what I didn't expect was that you actually noticed the clues. In fact, it's also my fault. I was too obvious. The demon ancestor grinned. Damn it! Qin Feiyong was furious and roared, Bastard, is it fun to do this? Almost. Just a little bit more. If it weren't for his quick reaction, Ren Wushuang would have been destroyed by him. Of course it's fun. The demon ancestor laughed. You lunatic, I won't spare you. Qin Feiyong took a step forward. The blood-red sword tore through the sky, carrying a monstrous killing intent as it slashed at the demon ancestor. The best part is yet to come. Don't worry. The demon ancestor waved his hand, and the sever formula blasted at the blood-red sword. A destructive aura suddenly rolled out from the top of the sky. At the same time, below, under the bombardment of the demonic pagoda and the dozen clones, the inner demons were also blasted into the Dead Sea below. That is, Qin Feiyong's pupils contracted. 3,000 clones. The demon ancestor laughed. Beside him, more than a dozen clones appeared. Each clone had all the means and strength of the demon ancestor. How is this possible? Qin Feiyong murmured. 3,000 clones, I passed it on to Zhuge Mingyang. But he was too useless. You actually snatched it away. However, it doesn't matter if I give it to you. Anyway, soon you will go to hell and reunite with him. The demon ancestor laughed sinisterly. Swish! Before his voice died away, a golden figure appeared behind him. Another mermaid princess. Her expression was still as cold as ice. Qin Feiyong sized up the mermaid princess at this moment with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. I didn't lie to you this time. She is the real mermaid princess. The demon ancestor laughed coldly and turned to look at the mermaid princess. Go far away and activate your battle soul.
Yes.
The mermaid princess nodded. Without even looking at Qin Fei Yang, she turned and left. Bastard, how dare you trick us? At this moment, the inner demons rushed out from the Death Sea, setting off huge waves and charging towards the mermaid princess. I won't let you succeed. The dozen clones and the demonic pagoda stood in front of her. You are not the only ones with 3,000 clones. The inner demons waved his hand and 500 clones appeared. He shouted, Kill the mermaid princess for me. The 500 clones were like killing gods. They smashed the demon ancestor's dozen clones and sent the demonic pagoda flying. Then they charged towards the mermaid princess. At the same time, Qin Fei Yang also activated 3,000 clones. In other words, he and the inner demons had a total of 1,000 clones at this moment. You are really good. You have cultivated 3,000 clones to this level in such a short time. However, using 3,000 clones in front of me is simply showing off your slight skill in front of an expert. The demon ancestor laughed contemptuously. With a wave of his hand, 1,000 clones appeared in the void behind him.
What?
He can summon 1,000 clones by himself. Looking at this scene, Qin Fei Yang and the inner demons were dumbfounded. The demon ancestor's face was full of disdain. He shouted, Go crush them.
Whoosh!
The 1,000 clones suddenly turned into two torrents. One charged towards the inner demon's clones and the other charged towards Qin Fei Yang's clones. At this moment, the entire sky above the Death Sea was filled with the clones of the three. The demon ancestor looked around and smiled. Not bad, not bad. This is the atmosphere we should have.
Whoosh!
The inner demons rushed to Qin Fei Yang's side and said in a deep voice, It seems that it is impossible to kill the mermaid princess. Qin Fei Yang smiled bitterly. Don't think about killing her first. Think about how to deal with the demon ancestor. How terrifying is this demon's strength? The inner demons were furious. They had already gone all out and almost used up all their trump cards, but they still could not defeat the demon ancestor. One had to know that the snowflake had yet to make a move. If the snowflake also made a move, could they really win?
Whoosh!
Accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, the demon pagoda also rushed into the sky and floated beside the demon ancestor. Old friend, it's been hard on you. The demon ancestor looked at the demon pagoda and smiled. Then he looked at Qin Fei Yang and the demon ancestor and said, I can feel the despair in your hearts. Qin Fei Yang and the demon ancestor's eyes darkened. Boom! It was also at this moment. In the distance, a terrifying aura exploded. Qin Fei Yang and the demon ancestor hurriedly looked over and saw the mermaid princess in the distance standing against the wind. Behind her stood a golden figure. The golden figure was shrouded in mist, and their true appearance could not be seen clearly. But Qin Fei Yang knew that it was the mermaid princess battle soul. Because it was he who accompanied the mermaid princess to activate this battle soul. Eye of life open. The mermaid princess whispered. The mist around the golden figure suddenly began to dissipate. The true appearance of the golden figure also quickly appeared in front of Qin Fei Yang and the demon ancestor. It was actually a big golden fish. Its body was thousands of feet long and covered with golden scales. It was like a golden sun, emitting a dazzling golden light. The entire demonic dragon island was shrouded in this golden light at this moment. This is her battle soul? The inner demons murmured. That's not right. Her battle soul is so similar to the statue of the first mermaid emperor. It should be a mermaid. But why is it a fish when it reveals its true appearance? Qin Fei Yang was surprised. The demon ancestor said, because the mermaid clan is the offspring of a fish and a human. A human and a fish can combine? The inner demons were surprised. Nonsense. Every beast that cultivates to become a god can transform into a human. But because they hate us humans, they disdain to do so. There are even some ferocious beasts that view the matter of transforming into humans as a disgrace. This is basic knowledge. Don't you know? The demon ancestor said angrily. The inner demons were stunned. What am I doing? Is there a need to be angry with him? The demon ancestor shook his head and sneered. Watch carefully. After all, this is the first and last time you will see the legendary Eye of Life. Qin Fei Yang and the inner demons looked at each other, and a light flashed in their eyes. Did the demon ancestor forget that their eye of heaven could copy all battle souls and gifted superpowers? After the golden fish revealed its true appearance, it swam above the mermaid princess' head. The bright golden light made the demonic dragon island below as bright as day. This golden light, the Blood Kirin, the Golden Leopard, and Zhao Tai Lai, who were on the battlefield, looked up at the sky and looked at the mermaid princess. Sima Kuan, the white-haired old man, and the three divine beasts, the Wood Kirin, were all delighted. Damn it! She is going to activate her gifted superpowers. What is Qin Feiyang doing? Why didn't he kill her? Suddenly, the Blood Kirin roared. Sima Kuan looked back at the Blood Kirin and sneered. The mermaid princess is our trump card. Do you think the demon ancestor will let Qin Feiyang kill her? Also, didn't you see that the demon ancestor has already activated 3,000 clones? I am afraid that Qin Feiyang can't even protect himself now. The Blood Kirin's heart sank. He roared, Zhao Tai Lai, Tang Hai, Chui Li, Junior Leopard, prepare to die. His voice was like a bell, echoing in all directions. Zhao Tai Lai, Chui Li, and the Golden Leopard heard it and looked in the direction of the Blood Kirin. Their hearts sank. They knew the Blood Kirin's personality. He would not say such things unless he was in a desperate situation. Chapter 1856. Buzz. Suddenly, the big golden fish stopped swimming and floated above the mermaid princess's head. Immediately after, its glabella quickly split open, revealing a golden eye. It was as if it was cast in gold, shining with divine light. This is the Eye of Life? Qin Feiyang murmured. As soon as his voice fell, the mermaid princess raised her head and looked at the big golden fish. Her expression was extremely sincere, and she exclaimed, Light of life, please shine on this land. Voila! Immediately, the eye between the big fish's glabella emitted a golden light that flooded in all directions. In less than 3 breaths, the entire demonic dragon island was enveloped by this golden light. Although it was a golden light, it was not dazzling at all. It was like the rising sun, very gentle and warm. And in this golden light, there was a sacred aura. At this moment, the mermaid princess was bathed in divine light, like a goddess descending to the mortal world, sacred and inviolable. Deity, you have good taste. This woman is worth having. But I'm thinking, if you really get together, the child you give birth to, will it be a mermaid or a human? The inner demon's eyes were full of curiosity. What time is it now, and you still have the mood to think about this? Qin Feiyang was speechless. The inner demon secretly laughed. What are you afraid of? You and I both know that no matter how strong the demon ancestor is, the final winner of this battle will be us. This is under the premise that Snowflake doesn't make a move. If it also makes a move, I'm afraid it won't be so easy. Qin Feiyang said. If Snowflake makes a move, then activate the ultimate killer move and destroy it. A trace of hostility flashed in the eyes of the inner demons. Activating the ultimate killer move can indeed destroy everything, but... Yi Zichen muttered. I really can't bear it. Qin Feiyang sighed. I can understand your feelings, but sometimes we have no choice. Moreover, haven't you already made up your mind to activate the Gate of Rebirth? There's nothing to worry about. The inner demons said. However, don't forget that I've only managed to comprehend the Gate of Reincarnation to the initial level. At most, it can only revive 10,000 people. Qin Feiyang thought. The inner demons fell silent. But suddenly, their pupils shrank as they looked at the demon ancestor. He discovered that the fiend ancestor's old face had become much younger. Previously, madly activating forbidden techniques and burning his lifespan, the fiend ancestor's hair was already mottled, and he looked old and stooped. But now, the wrinkles on his face were quickly disappearing. His white hair was also rapidly turning black. Is this the ability of the Eye of Life? The two of them looked at each other and released their divine senses to check the situation of Sima Kuan and the others. As expected, the injuries of Sima Kuan and the others were also rapidly healing. Roar! Suddenly, an angry roar came from below. Immediately after, with a loud bang, a huge black dragon rushed into the sky. It was Mo Long. Not long ago, It was seriously injured by Qin Fei Yang and fell into a coma. But now, not only did it wake up, but the injuries on its body had also mostly healed. The Eye of Life, flesh and bone, is indeed terrifying. The inner demons looked at the mermaid princess again, and the murderous intent in their eyes was even stronger than before. Although they couldn't bear to kill her, this woman had to die now. Otherwise, not only the fiend ancestor, but even Sima Qian and the others would become immortal. It was not easy to seriously injure them, and victory was just about to come. I didn't expect that the mermaid princess would turn the situation around in an instant. The Blood Kirin's worry is not without reason. The situation is really bad now. If the young master can't get rid of the mermaid princess, then this time, we will really die here. Looking at the white-haired old man and the others' changes, Zhao Tai-Lai and the other two and the golden leopard's hearts were extremely heavy. Haha. Blood Kirin die. Sima Qian laughed, and his aura surged out as he punched the Blood Kirin. Whether it was speed or divine power, they had all recovered to their peak state. On the other hand, the Blood Kirin, although it had had the upper hand before, it was also seriously injured. The most important thing was that after such a long battle, it had very little divine power left. Although it did not want to admit defeat, it could not change this fact. Boom. There was no suspense. The Blood Kirin was sent flying by Sima Qian's punch. Its physical body cracked, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Boom. At the same time, the white-haired old man and the other three immediately launched a storm of attacks on the golden leopard, Zhao Tai-Lai, and the others. The gap between the two sides was too big. One side was at their peak state, while the other side was seriously injured and completely suppressed. After a while, the Blood Kirin, the golden leopard, Zhao Tai-Lai, and the others were on the verge of death. Young master, if we don't get rid of the mermaid princess now, I'm afraid that even the gods can't help us. The golden leopard roared. Junior leopard, you are too naive. Even if we kill the mermaid princess now, it will be useless. Because they have already recovered to their peak state. Let's fight to the death. But I don't regret it. Because it was you who taught me what companionship is and what trust is. To be able to fight side by side with you, to live and die with you, is my honor. It is also my pride. I hope that in the next life, we can meet sooner. The Blood Kirin muttered to itself. Its eyes were full of weakness, but a bright smile crept onto its face. It is smiling? Sima Qian looked at the Blood Kirin in disbelief. After being together for so many years, he knew the Blood Kirin's personality very well. It could be said that this was the first time he had seen the Blood Kirin smile so sincerely. The Blood Kirin looked up at Sima Qian and smiled. Sima Qian, let's fight. Sima Qian said, I really want to know why. Why what? The Blood Kirin was suspicious. We have been together for so many years, and you have never smiled at us like this. But why are you so happy after knowing Qin Fei Yang and the others for less than a day? You are not even afraid of death. What did they give you? Sima Qian asked angrily. Oh, that's what you want to ask. The Blood Kirin suddenly understood and said, the things they gave me cannot be seen or touched. Only the heart can feel them. What a joke. What a joke. I think you've been possessed by the devil. Sima Qian roared angrily and stepped toward the Blood Kirin. Boom. The Blood Kirin was blasted into the ground again. The Blood Kirin dyed the ground red. Before, I also thought it was a joke. But now, when I've truly experienced it, I finally understand how precious and rare this invisible bond is. The Blood Kirin stubbornly stood up. The dragon vein sword and the Kirin armor floated in front of it. It looked at the dragon vein sword and the Kirin armor and laughed. Are you afraid of death? If you are not, then fight with me until the fire of my life is extinguished. The two supreme-grade artifacts were silent for a while. Suddenly, wisps of terrifying auras burst out of his body. The two artifacts had awakened on their own. Thank you. The Blood Kirin looked at them gratefully. It looked up at Sima Qian and roared, as long as my life is not extinguished, my will to fight will not be extinguished. Kill. The Blood Kirin's aura was fully unleashed. With its last will, the dragon vein sword and the Kirin armor, it charged towards Sima Qian. The golden leopard, Zhao Tai-Lai, and the other two were also like moths to a flame. They charged toward the white-haired old man and the others. The demon ancestor had returned to his original appearance. His 7-foot body was like an iron pine tree. His black hair was like a waterfall, and his blood was vigorous. The demon dragon's injuries had also completely healed. At this moment, whether it was the demon ancestor, the demon dragon, Qin Feiyang, or the inner demons, they were all using their divine consciousness to watch Zhao Tailai and the others. The demon ancestor sighed. Qin Feiyang, I really envy you for having such a group of loyal subordinates. If you can put away your desires and selfishness, there will still be people who will follow you wholeheartedly. Qin Feiyang said. Perhaps. But I don't need it. Because my strength alone is enough to destroy everything. Any person, any beast in my eyes, is just a chess piece. The demon ancestor laughed, his expression full of contempt. Chapter 1857. Lord Demon Ancestor. Looking at this scene, Emo Long panicked as he turned his head to look at Demon Ancestor. He didn't know if he didn't look, but when he did, he was shocked. At this moment, Demon Ancestor had his head lowered. His hands were tightly clenched, and his expression was extremely gloomy. How careless am I to actually forget about the Eye of Heaven? What's wrong with me? How could I make such a low-level mistake? This kind of negligence is really unforgivable. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons, who made me lose face, are even more unforgivable. At this moment, he was like a wild beast that was about to go crazy. His face was extremely ferocious. Whether it was his self-confidence or self-esteem, they were both deeply hurt. Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. Qin Feiyang. Demon Ancestor suddenly raised his head and stared at Qin Feiyang and Emo Long. His eyes were scarlet as he laughed sinisterly. I didn't expect that I would be such a boring person. I actually played with you two ants for so long. Lord Demon Ancestor. Emo Long murmured. It could be seen that Demon Ancestor was deeply affected this time. Boring, really boring. No matter how many chances I give you, you can't escape the fate of death. Trash like you, what's the use of staying in this world? All of you go to hell. 3,000 incarnations. Open. Demon Ancestor roared. In the next moment, a scene that made Qin Feiyang and Emo Long pale appeared. In the void behind Demon Ancestor, incarnations continued to appear. There are actually so many. Inner demons said in shock. Qin Feiyang's pupils also contracted tightly. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's body shook as he said in a deep voice. Not long ago, he said that only those who fully comprehend the god's secret art can pass it down. Yeah. Why? Inner demons looked at him in confusion. He passed the 3,000 incarnations to Zhuge Mingyang. Doesn't that mean that he has fully comprehended the 3,000 incarnations? Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, the inner demons felt as if they had been struck by lightning. They glared at the demon ancestor and said, doesn't that mean that he can condense 3,000 incarnations? You only realized it now? The demon dragon sneered and said, to tell you the truth, Lord Demon Ancestor was already able to create 3,000 incarnations 10,000 years ago. The hearts of Qin Feiyang and Li Wuyo sank. Apart from the fiend ancestor himself, only the two of them knew how terrifying the 3,000 avatars were. With the demon ancestor's capabilities and strength, if he fully activated his 3,000 clones, even a greater success divine war god would be killed instantly. Swish! In just a few breaths. In the void behind the ancestral fiend, a total of 2,000 avatars appeared. Not one more, not one less, densely packed. Every avatar emitted an aura that was in no way weaker than the fiend ancestor himself. Furthermore, they had all activated their Demon King physique. At a glance, they were like a group of demons. It was simply despairing. Haha. This is my last resort, and also your last moments in this world. Experience this despair well. Kill for me. The fiend ancestor roared ferociously. The 2,000 avatars waved their hands at the same time, and the word destroy appeared one by one. The destructive aura directly engulfed this world. Destroy word tactic. One must know. The 6 words tactic was a legendary killing technique. The fiend ancestor alone used the destroy word tactic, which was already heaven-defying enough, let alone now that 2,000 avatars had evolved the destroy word tactic at the same time. This scene was enough to make anyone feel despair. One could imagine how much pressure Qin Feiyang and the inner demons were facing now. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and looked at the fiend ancestor. Your last resort is also your strongest move, right?
That's right.
The fiend ancestor said. Listening to your tone, it seems like you can block these 2,000 avatars? Don't joke around. With the strength of you and the inner demons, it's impossible to do so. The demon dragon snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons looked at each other, and a smile appeared on their faces. The demon dragon god was stunned. How could he still smile at this time? The inner demons looked at the fiend ancestor and laughed. Actually, we have been waiting for you to show your last card. The fiend ancestor looked at the inner demons, then looked at Qin Feiyang, and an inexplicable uneasiness rose in his heart. That's right. Because we know that with our current strength, it's very difficult to kill you. After all, you are ridiculously strong. So we can only wait for this moment to come. Qin Feiyang also laughed. The uneasiness in the fiend ancestor's heart grew stronger. Since we can't defeat you with our strength, then we will borrow your strength. Although the appearance of the 3,000 avatars shocked us, at the same time, it also made us happy. Because we haven't fully comprehended the 3,000 avatars, and can't condense 3,000 avatars. But now we can. And the number of avatars we condense will be twice as many as yours. Because there are 2 of us. The inner demons roared and also activated the purple gold dragon soul. This is... The fiend dragon looked at the inner demons in shock. Eye of heaven, open. The inner demons and Qin Feiyang roared to the sky. In the void behind them, 5,000 avatars instantly appeared. Among them, 2,500 avatars were exactly the same as Qin Feiyang. The other 2,500 avatars were exactly the same as the inner demons. In addition to the 1,000 avatars that were fighting around them, the two had a total of 6,000 avatars. How is this possible? The Eye of Heaven can even replicate a deity art. The fiend dragon looked at this scene, dumbfounded. That's right. The Eye of Heaven can replicate all attacks. So, not only can it replicate battle souls and gifted superpowers, but also deity arts and battle arts. Qin Feiyang said. The fiend dragon's body trembled, and he looked at the fiend ancestor in panic. Lord Fiend Ancestor. At this moment, the fiend ancestor glanced at the avatars behind Qin Feiyang, and his face was full of bitterness. In the past, he had heard of the rumors of the Eye of Heaven. He also knew that the Eye of Heaven could replicate attacks, including deity arts and battle arts. However, this point had not been confirmed. Because the Eye of Heaven had never appeared before, he had always thought that it was just a rumor. After all, it was already heaven-defying enough to replicate battle souls and gifted superpowers. If it could replicate deity arts and battle arts, wouldn't it be invincible? However, he never thought that the Eye of Heaven could replicate deity arts. I lost. The fiend ancestor suddenly smiled, and his face was full of misery. The fiend dragon trembled and roared. Lord Fiend Ancestor, we haven't lost yet. Pull yourself together. We haven't lost, the fiend ancestor muttered, and a shocking battle intent rose from his body. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, That's right, I haven't lost yet. I want to continue fighting. This is no longer a battle for life and death, but a battle for dignity. I, the fiend ancestor, will never bow my head and admit defeat to you two juniors. Come on, let us settle this once and for all. The fiend ancestor roared. The fiend dragon art, 6 words kill, and Eye of Despair were all activated, and they crazily attacked Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. Kill. The fiend dragon also activated his battle soul and followed closely behind the fiend ancestor. The fiend pagoda did not take a step back, and its demonic aura shook the heavens and earth. The 2,000 incarnations of the fiend ancestor also turned into a torrent and followed behind them. Are we fighting for dignity? We should have done this long ago. Qin Feiyang muttered, and then looked at the inner demons and smiled. He also activated the fiend dragon art and 6 words divine art, and led the 5,000 incarnations to attack the fiend ancestor. From afar, it looked like 2 torrents, drowning the sky and rushing toward each other. At this moment, Sima Kuan's group and Zhao Tailai's group stopped fighting at the same time and looked up at the sky. Rumble. With an earth-shattering explosion, the two sides met. In an instant, the entire heavens and earth were drowned in purple-gold divine light, blood light, and black light. That destructive aura surged out in all directions like an avalanche. The entire demonic dragon island was instantly annihilated, swallowed by the endless sea. Only the altar that led to the divine ruin was protected by a layer of bloodlight, and it quickly sank to the bottom of the sea. Everything disappeared. Only Sima Kuan, Zhao Tai Lai, and the others stood in the void far away, looking at the sky anxiously. Who would be the one that fell? The light gradually dissipated. The heavens and earth also slowly quieted down. Even the sea seemed to be exceptionally calm. Everyone could clearly hear their own heartbeats and breathing. When the light completely dissipated, Sima Kuan, the white-haired old man, the 7 people, and the 3 beasts changed their expressions and quickly flew toward the sky. They saw a figure falling from the sky. It was the fiend ancestor. At this moment, the fiend ancestor's body was covered in blood, and he had already fainted. The fiend dragon and the fiend pagoda fell together with him. The fiend dragon's huge body was broken. 8 of its 9 heads were smashed. The remaining head was also split into pieces. Its life force was extremely weak. The fiend pagoda was also in pieces, and its divine light dimmed. Young master. At the same time. At this moment, Zhao Tai Lai and the others looked at the 2 figures in the sky, and could not help but cry tears of joy. They had experienced too much in this night's battle. They had been hovering between despair and hope. This was not only mental torture, but also mental destruction. They were even prepared to die in battle. Seeing the fiend ancestor finally fall, how could they not be excited? Whoosh! Sima Kuan and the others rushed over and caught the fiend ancestor, the fiend dragon, and the fiend pagoda. Looking at the dying fiend ancestor, Sima Kuan cried and shouted, "Lord Fiend Ancestor, wake up, you can't die!" The white-haired old man and the 3 beasts were also in grief. But more than that, they were in despair. Even the fiend ancestor was defeated by Qin Feiyong's opponent. Did they still have any hope? The fiend dragon glanced at the fiend ancestor, then looked up at Qin Feiyong and the inner demons. It looked at Sima Kuan and said, "Sima Kuan, don't worry about him. Let's run." Run. Sima Kuan's eyes widened in anger and he roared, "It was the Lord Fiend Ancestor who gave you the status and strength you have today, and you want to abandon the Lord Fiend Ancestor? Do you have any conscience?" Chapter 1858. Humph. Don't make it sound so nice. Do you think we can't see that the Demon Lord only cares about you, Sima Yuan, and Emo Long? As for us, we're just a dog by his side. No. In his eyes, we are less than dogs. The white-haired old man and the 3 beasts snorted coldly. You? Sima Kuan glared at the 7 men and 3 beasts. Humph. If you want to stay here and wait for death, that's your business. We won't die with you. Let's go. The white-haired old man waved his sleeves and left Emo Long and Emo Pagoda behind. The other 6 people and the wood Qilin and the other 2 beasts also looked coldly at Sima Kuan, then turned and left without a word. Bastard, bastard. Sima Kuan roared. Mermaid Princess, where are you? Come and save the Demon Lord. At the same time, he released his divine power to support Emo Long and Emo Pagoda. Yeah. Where's the Mermaid Princess? The Blood Kirin, the Golden Leopard, and Zhao Tai Lai were also gathered nearby. When they heard Sima Kuan's roar, they looked at the sky suspiciously. Tang Hai said, "Don't worry about the Mermaid Princess. We can't let Mu Qilin and the others leave." That's right. They are all gods of war, and they are all ruthless. If they leave alive, there will be no end of trouble. The Blood Kirin said. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Zhao Tai Lai shouted. The 3 men and 2 beasts rushed toward the white-haired old man and the others with murderous intent. Tang Hai and the Blood Kirin were the fastest. They were the first to arrive in front of the group. When the white-haired old man saw this, he raised an eyebrow and looked at Tang Hai and the Blood Kirin. The battle is over. What else do you want? Over. You are still alive. How can you call it over? Xueqi, the Golden Leopard, and Zhao Tai Lai came and blocked the group's rear. They sneered. Don't go too far. The 7 men and the 3 beasts glared at each other angrily.
Cut the crap. Attack! Xueqi shouted. The 6 beast spirits immediately charged towards the group of people. The Blood Kirin immediately activated the dragon tattoo sword. The scary light made the white-haired old man and the others fall into despair. Blood Kirin, we used to be friends. Let us go.
We promise that we will never stir up trouble again.
The group of people begged. Forget about Xueqi, Zhao Tai, Tang Hai, and the Golden Leopard. The Blood Kirin alone was enough to wipe them all out. The Blood Kirin was a low-level war god, and it had 2 supreme quality weapons. Firmament. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons stood side by side, their bodies also riddled with wounds. Although they had defeated the Fiend Ancestor, the Fiend Ancestor's final strike was something they could not afford to pay. However, his life wasn't in danger. The inner demons glanced at Tang Hai and the others, then at Sima Qian and the Demon Ancestor, and said, I can't let my guard down yet. I must kill the Demon Ancestor before he wakes up. Qin Feiyang nodded and glanced around. There was a trace of suspicion in his eyes. Where was the Mermaid Princess now? Mermaid Princess, where are you?
I beg you to come quickly and save Lord Devil Ancestor.
Sima Qian hugged the Demon Ancestor and roared crazily. As for the white-haired old man and the Wood Kirin, he didn't care. Now, he just wanted to wake up the Demon Ancestor. Splash! Suddenly, a golden figure swept out from the sea below and headed straight for Sima Qian. It was the Mermaid Princess. Although the Mermaid Princess's memory had been erased, she was not a puppet. She had her own consciousness. Previously, when Qin Feiyang and the Demon Ancestor were fighting, she felt the danger and turned to escape. But because she was too slow, she was still affected by the aftershocks and blasted into the sea. Quick! When Sima Qian saw the Mermaid Princess, his face lit up with joy. However, at this moment, a blood-red figure appeared above the Mermaid Princess. That's right. It was the inner demons. Get lost. The Mermaid Princess shouted coldly. How cold? The inner demons muttered. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also descended in front of Sima Qian. The joy on Sima Qian's face froze. He hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted, Qin Feiyang, I beg you, please give the Demon Ancestor a way out. I'm willing to die for him. Drops of tears dripped onto the Demon Ancestor's face. Qin Feiyang glanced at Sima Qian, then lowered his head to look at the Demon Ancestor and sighed. Do you see that? There are people in this world who are willing to die for you and shed tears for you. That's right. The Demon Ancestor said. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked. He stared at the Demon Ancestor and said, You didn't faint? My lord. Sima Qian immediately lowered his head and looked at the Demon Ancestor in his arms. The tears in his eyes could not stop falling. The Demon Ancestor slowly opened his eyes and smiled at Sima Qian. Actually, I didn't faint. Didn't faint? Sima Qian was stunned and asked, Then why? I just wanted to see how many people would protect me at all costs when I'm in trouble. In the end, only you. However, I'm already very happy. The Demon Ancestor smiled. My lord. Sima Qian murmured and suddenly smiled happily. At this moment, he was just like an innocent child. Oh no, the Demon Ancestor didn't faint. Then, didn't he hear everything we said just now? The white-haired old man and the other 2 who were in a bitter battle, as well as the Wood Qilin and the other 2 beasts, all turned pale. Lord Demon Ancestor, we were wrong. Please save us. We swear that we will never be disloyal again. We will serve you wholeheartedly. They were now at the end of their rope. They could only thicken their faces and ask the Demon Ancestor for help. The Demon Ancestor ignored them and slowly got up. Demonic flames burned on his body. His injuries were instantly healed. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. The next moment, the Demon Ancestor moved. However, he didn't attack Qin Feiyang or the inner demons. Instead, he went for Zhao Tai and the others. Get out of the way! Qin Feiyang hurriedly shouted. Heard it. The Blood Qilin, the Golden Leopard, and Zhao Tai looked up and their expressions changed drastically. Tang Hai immediately waved his hand and swept everyone up. He didn't even look back as he flew away. At the same time, seeing the Demon Ancestor's actions,
Sima Kuan couldn't help but frown and murmur, "They have already betrayed you. Why do you still want to save them?" Whoosh! The demon ancestor flew in front of the white-haired old man and the others. "My lord, thank you." The white-haired old man and the other two beasts hurriedly said gratefully. The demon ancestor smiled and said, "No need to thank me. I'm not here to save you. I'm here to kill you with my own hands." What? The 7 people and 3 beasts were stunned, wondering if they had heard wrong. "You didn't hear wrong. I'm here to kill you." The demon ancestor smiled as his eyes gradually turned red. Eyes of despair. He's not joking. He really wants to kill us. "Run!" The white-haired old man roared. The 7 people and 3 beasts immediately ran for their lives. "Run!" The demon ancestor's eyes flashed with disdain as his eyes turned red. The white-haired old man and the others suddenly felt a deep sense of despair in their hearts. Immediately, they lay in the void and screamed. You can't even withstand the first level of the eyes of despair. You really don't even qualify to be cannon fodder. The demon ancestor waved his hand and divine power rolled out, drowning the 7 people and 3 beasts. Ah! Roar! Following a series of shrill screams, the 7 people and 3 beasts died on the spot. The inner demon's pupils shrank. The 7 war gods were killed in an instant. This demon ancestor was indeed extraordinarily scary. The Blood Qilin, the Golden Leopard, and Zhao Tai Lai, who had fled far away, looked at the demon ancestor in shock. Good death. There was no sympathy in Sima Kuan's eyes. But what Qin Feiyong cared about was the demon ancestor's look of despair. The red eyes were the first level of the eyes of despair. The grayish-white eyes should be the second level of the eyes of despair. Where did the demon ancestor get such a scary godly skill? The demon ancestor turned his head to look at Qin Feiyong as if he could see through Qin Feiyong's thoughts. He said, "The eyes of despair is not a godly skill." Not a godly skill? Qin Feiyong was surprised. Yes. The eyes of despair is my fighting soul. It is the same as your eye of heaven. It is one of the top 10 fighting souls. The demon ancestor said. Top 10 fighting souls? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. The inner demon shouted, "Deity, now is not the time to talk about this." As he spoke, he took a step forward, raised his arm like lightning, and grabbed the mermaid princess' neck. The demon ancestor turned to look at the inner demons and shook his head. "You can kill anyone but her." "Are you joking?" The inner demon sneered. "Joking? It seems that I am not the only one with a bad memory. Even you have a bad memory. If that is the case, I will kindly remind you. Heart Union Knot." The demon ancestor said. Heart Union Knot. Qin Feiyong's eyes trembled. The inner demons immediately looked at Qin Feiyong's chest. That's right. The mermaid princess and Qin Feiyong had a heart union knot. Their lives were already tied together. If either of them were to meet with misfortune, the other would die with them. Actually, you don't have to kill her. Because after this battle, I have come to a realization. The demon ancestor sighed. Realization? Qin Feiyong frowned. The Blood Qilin, the Golden Leopard, and Tang Hai quickly rushed to Qin Feiyong's side and looked at the demon ancestor suspiciously. Lord Demon Ancestor, you? Sima Kuan also looked at the demon ancestor in shock. The demon ancestor smiled at Sima Kuan and looked at Qin Feiyong. When I was defeated by you, I could not help but think of the things I had done in the past. I repeatedly asked myself, what was the point of doing all this? What did I get? Nothing. I didn't get anything. Instead, I was betrayed. Thinking about it, it is really sad. The demon ancestor shook his head and laughed at himself. His face was full of melancholy and disappointment. The inner demon said to himself, I can't let my guard down. He might just be confusing us. Yes. First, destroy the mermaid princess Sea of Qi. Qin Feiyong transmitted. The inner demons nodded. A wisp of god power swept out and instantly entered the mermaid princess Sea of Qi. Immediately after, the inner demons brought the mermaid princess to Qin Feiyong's side and stood side by side. Qin Feiyong also immediately sent the mermaid princess to the Black Tortoise world. Because now, the Black Tortoise world was safer than the castle. Genius memorized the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website, M.
Chapter 1859. Sima Kuan glanced at Qin Feiyong and the others, then flew to the demon ancestor with Mo Long and Mo Pagoda. His face was full of concern as he said, "My lord, what happened to you? Don't scare me." The demon ancestor sighed and looked at Sima Kuan. He smiled and said, "Actually, my awakening has something to do with you." "Has something to do with me?" Sima Kuan was slightly stunned and looked at the demon ancestor suspiciously. "Yes. Just now, your tears dripped on my face. At that moment, I could clearly feel the despair and sorrow in your heart. At the same time, your tears made me feel an unprecedented warmth." The demon ancestor smiled. "My lord." Sima Kuan looked at the demon ancestor in a daze, and tears fell from his eyes uncontrollably. The demon ancestor said, "Thank you for always being with me." No. I should be the one saying something to you. If you didn't save me and my brother back then, we would have fallen off the cliff and died. It's you who gave us all this. It's also you who gave us the dignity of being human. You are our second parent." Sima Kuan waved his hand and shouted. "Second parent," the demon ancestor muttered and sighed. "But I didn't fulfill my responsibility as a father and even killed your brother." "No. My brother was killed by Qin Feiyong." Sima Kuan roared. Zhao Tailai raised his eyebrows and said, "Your brother committed suicide. How many times do we need to say it?" Sima Kuan said angrily, "Even if he committed suicide, it was you who forced him." "Unreasonable." Zhao Tailai snorted coldly. Sima Kuan turned a deaf ear and stared at Qin Feiyong and the inner demons. He said word by word, "I will definitely avenge my brother." "Good. Now I'll give you the chance." The inner demons took a step forward, and that terrifying murderous aura rushed towards Sima Kuan like a wave. Sima Kuan's heart was suddenly filled with an unresolvable fear. Even the demon ancestor wasn't a match for these two, let alone him. If he really wanted to fight, he didn't have the courage. But suddenly, the demon alpha stepped in front of Sima Kuan. Demonic power surged out and blocked the inner demon's murderous aura. "Regardless of whether you've come to your senses or not, we have to settle this today." The blood-red hair of the inner demons danced in the wind. As the murderous aura surged, the blood-red longsword reappeared. Its terrifying sharpness swept across the world. "This is the current kill formula." Sima Kuan, who was standing behind Demon Alpha, could not help but tremble. Previously, Han Sen had been fighting the Blood Kirin, so he hadn't experienced the power of the kill word. And at this moment, faced with the blood-red longsword that was so close to him, he could not help but feel despair as he felt the sharpness of the sword that could tear the heavens and earth apart. It was only then that he realized that the Lord Demon Ancestor had been fighting with such a terrifying existence. Looking at the aggressive inner demons, the Demon Ancestor sighed deeply. He then looked at Qin Feiyong with a complicated expression. Qin Feiyong said in a deep voice, "Back to the previous topic, what do you mean by awakening?" This person's sudden change made him very uncomfortable. The demon ancestor pondered for a while and sighed. "You can think of it this way. I plan to turn over a new leaf." "My lord, you!" Sima Kuan looked at the demon ancestor in shock. The demon ancestor turned to look at Sima Kuan and smiled. "You've been with me since you were young. You know everything that I've done in my life." Sima Kuan nodded. The demon ancestor said, "Then what do you think of all that I've done?" Sima Kuan said, "To create a truly peaceful world." "Yes, that's what I thought at first. But now, I realize that it's just an excuse to satisfy my selfish desires. Actually, Qin Feiyong is right. I'm a selfish person. I don't trust anyone. For example, the Blood Kirin and the others have followed me for so many years. I've been hiding the fact that the Demon Hall has a time array from them." The demon ancestor laughed at himself. "The Demon Hall really does have a time array." Qin Feiyong mumbled. Sima Kuan said, "My lord, you don't have to blame yourself. What you did was right. Look at the Blood Kirin. Didn't it betray us?" "No. If I treated it with sincerity like Qin Feiyong, would it betray me?" the demon ancestor said. Sima Kuan fell silent. "I used to say that Qin Feiyong was too naive and too loyal. But that's not the case. I was too stupid. After living for so many years,
I didn't even understand the trust between companions. That's why I lost to him. The demon ancestor sighed. My lord, Sima Kuan muttered. Perhaps this is fate. 10,000 years ago, I lost to Qin Batian. 10,000 years later, I lost to his descendants. To be honest, I'm still a little unwilling. The demon ancestor raised his arm and covered his face with his hand. He was in so much pain that he even shed tears. Looking at the demon ancestor at this moment, Sima Kuan's heart ached. He roared, My lord, you haven't lost. You still have the fourth move of the demonic dragon art. The fourth move. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons looked at each other with a trace of doubt in their eyes. It seemed that they really hadn't seen the demon ancestor use the fourth move of the demonic dragon art. The fourth move. It's useless. The moment he opened the Eye of Heaven, our ending was already decided. The demon ancestor muttered, his heart filled with despair. Sima Kuan said in a deep voice, Is the Eye of Heaven really that heaven-defying? The Eye of Heaven is that heaven-defying. There are a total of 10 heaven-defying battle souls in the world. The Eye of Heaven is ranked 2nd, and my Eye of Despair is only ranked 6th. The demon ancestor said. Qin Feiyang asked, What's the first battle soul? The demon ancestor said, Your ancestor's battle soul, the Eye of Reincarnation. Eye of Reincarnation, Qin Feiyang murmured. Although he didn't know what the Eye of Reincarnation was used for, he could tell from the name that it was definitely extraordinary. All right. The demon ancestor's expression turned serious as he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, The winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. I have nothing to say about this battle. It doesn't matter if you want to kill me or torture me, but I hope that you can let Sima Kuan go. My lord, Sima Kuan's expression changed. Don't say anything. I've already killed your big brother. I can't kill you too. The demon ancestor waved his hand. I'm not afraid. Sima Kuan roared. I'm afraid. If even you die here, I'm afraid that my conscience will be even more uneasy. The demon ancestor shouted. Tears rolled down Sima Kuan's face. Live well and don't avenge me because I deserve to die. It's not worth it. The demon ancestor turned his head to look at Sima Kuan and smiled. He then looked up at Qin Feiyang and the inner demons and said, Come, I won't resist anymore. Avenge your loved ones. The inner demon's pupils contracted as he transmitted his voice. My lord, looking at him. He doesn't seem to be joking. Qin Feiyang looked at the demon ancestor's expression and thought, If he really repents, it will save us a lot of trouble. Most importantly, he didn't have to kill his mother and Yan Wei with his own hands. Then now the inner demons asked. Revenge must be taken. Qin Feiyang said word by word. Accompanied by a clang, a blood-red sword condensed. Seeing this, the demon ancestor closed his eyes. I hope that in the next life, you can be a truly good person. Qin Feiyang whispered as he took a step forward. The blood-red sword pierced through the sky and went straight for the demon ancestor's forehead. Clang! However, at this moment, Snowflake appeared. A terrifying cold current instantly froze Qin Feiyang. The demon ancestor opened his eyes and looked at Snowflake angrily. I don't want to make any more mistakes. Let me go and atone for my sins. Atone for your sins? The reason why I like you is because you are ruthless enough. But I didn't expect that you are just a good-for-nothing. Snowflake snorted. Yes, I am a good-for-nothing. I don't need your help anymore. Go and find someone more worthy of your training. The demon ancestor shouted. Training? The inner demons was stunned. It turned out that the demon ancestor was trained by this snowflake. You want me to go, so I will go? Then all the effort and energy I have spent on you all these years, wouldn't it be a waste? How can there be such a simple thing in this world? Since you've admitted your defeat, you should hand over your flesh. Snowflake laughed sinisterly. Don't even think about it. The demon ancestor shouted as a destructive aura rushed out of his body. This is self-destruct. The inner demon's expression changed on the spot and immediately took the frozen Qin Feiyang, turned around, and fled. The Blood Kirin, Zhao Tai Lai, and others also fled in horror. In their hearts, it was extremely unbelievable. The demon ancestor actually chose to self-destruct?
Lord Demon Ancestor. Sima Kuan also roared in grief. The demon ancestor waved his hand, and a palm-sized ancient city appeared and swept towards Sima Kuan. It was Demon Capital. Quickly take Demon Capital, Demon Dragon, and Demon Pagoda. Let's go. When the matter here is over, we must return Lin Yi and the others to Qin Fei Yang. The demon ancestor shouted. No, I won't go. If we die together. Sima Kuan shook his head. Demon Capital. At the same time, when the inner demons heard the word Demon Capital, they suddenly trembled. They handed the frozen Qin Fei Yang to Zhao Tailai and shouted, You all go first. I will go and take Demon Capital. No one can escape. Snowflake sneered. The cold current was like a tide, rolling in all directions. Whether it was Sima Kuan, the inner demons, or even the blood Kirin, Zhao Tailai, and others, they were all frozen in an instant. So strong. With our current strength, we can't be Snowflake's opponent at all. Everyone felt despair. You bastard. I will die with you. The demon ancestor roared. Trash will always be trash. No matter how you carve it, it can't become something great. Snowflake's words were full of disdain. A wisp of cold air emerged and entered the demon ancestor's head. Ah! The demon ancestor suddenly screamed in pain. And at the next moment, the demon ancestor suddenly opened his eyes. The originally dark pupils had changed. It was as if they were condensed from ice, exuding a bone-chilling cold current. Crack! The inner demons and Qin Fei Yang forcibly shattered the ice on their bodies and looked up at the demon ancestor. Their faces suddenly changed drastically. Hee. Although this person is useless, his physical body is not bad. The demon ancestor looked at Qin Fei Yang and laughed ferociously. Chapter 1860. Qin Fei Yang said furiously, What did you do to him? Isn't it obvious? I destroyed his divine soul and took away his divine body. In other words, I'm the demon ancestor now. The demon ancestor laughed. Bastard! What right do you have to take other people's lives? Qin Fei Yang roared. The blood-red sword shattered the void and slashed toward the snowflake's body. Mere ants, how dare you compete with the sun and the moon? The demon ancestor laughed contemptuously. The snowflake shook the sky and shattered the blood-red sword. Qin Fei Yang was also sent flying. This lord. The inner demons roared and immediately activated the battle and kill formula, charging toward the demon ancestor. You're all ants. Dang. The demon ancestor laughed maniacally. The snowflake's cold aura surged and condensed into ice arrows, shattering the sky. Accompanied by clanging sounds, the blood-red armor on the inner demon's body shattered. The inner demon's body was pierced through by the ice arrows. It was like a sieve riddled with holes, and blood flowed out like a waterfall. So strong. The inner demon's face was pale. Whoosh! Qin Fei Yang flew over and supported the inner demons. He asked with concern, How are you? I won't die. But this divine item isn't something we can deal with. The inner demon said in a low voice. Qin Fei Yang raised his head and looked at the demon ancestor and the snowflake. Are you in despair? This is the strength of this lord. For trash like you, this lord can kill you with a flick of his finger. The demon ancestor laughed, his face full of contempt. Although I know that the one controlling this body isn't the demon ancestor himself, hearing this voice is still infuriating. The inner demon snorted. Yeah. But no one expected that the demon ancestor would be killed by the snowflake in the end. Qin Fei Yang said. The inner demon said, Activate the ultimate means. Otherwise, we'll all be wiped out. Ultimate move. Qin Fei Yang lowered his head, a trace of hesitation on his face. Now is not the time to hesitate. Although the Eye of Heaven can duplicate fighting souls and deity techniques, it can't duplicate deity artifacts. Furthermore, Snowflake's strength has far exceeded the limit of what the Eye of Heaven can duplicate. If we hesitate any longer, we'll all die. The inner demons shouted. Qin Fei Yang's eyes shivered. He lifted his head to look at Demon Ancestor and Snowflake. That was right. There was no other choice now. If he wanted to fight against the Snowflakes, he had to use his ultimate move. Qin Fei Yang took a deep breath, turned to the inner demons, and said in a deep voice, Go,
I will try my best to delay until you come out. The inner demons nodded and turned around to Zhao Tai Lai and the others. With a wave of his hand, he led everyone to the Black Tortoise world. In this way, only Qin Feiyong and Sima Kuan were left. As for Sima Kuan, he was still sealed in ice. Through the layer of ice, one could clearly see his twisted expression of pain. Looking at the inner demons disappearing with Zhao Tai Lai and the others, Demon Ancestor was taken aback. But immediately, his face was full of disdain as he said, "You let them escape while you stay. Do you want to fight me one-on-one? I still have this self-awareness. No matter what means I use, I can't defeat you. However, it's better for me to die alone than for everyone to die," Qin Feiyong said. "At least you still have some awareness. But do you think they can survive by hiding in the castle and the Black Tortoise world? You are too naive. After I kill you, they'll all die. But you can rest assured that I won't let you die so easily." Demon Ancestor laughed. He grabbed Demon Ancestor. Swish! The next moment, a figure appeared next to Demon Ancestor. It was Lin Yi. Seeing the appearance of Lin Yi, Qin Feiyong's gaze trembled slightly. There was also an uneasy premonition in his heart. Following that, more and more figures appeared behind the ancestral devil. Qin Feiyong looked at them one by one, and his eyes couldn't help but moisten. Those were all familiar faces. There was his mother. There was Jiang Zhengyi. There was Yan Wei. There was Old Master Ren. There was also Wang Yangfeng, Wang Yishan, and everyone in the Wang clan, including his only disciple, Wang Xiaojia, and Qin Chen who followed him in the Mu family. There was also Ling Yunfei's mother, Lu Ji. Luo Qingzhu's mother, Luo Chenxue. Even Fatso's only relative, Situ Hai, was also in the crowd. In short, everyone around him appeared in front of him at this moment, such as the Earth Dragon, Cheetah, Seahorse, Seal, etc. Finally, his gaze fell on a young man. The young man was the little prince, Qin Haotian. And the little prince, Yan Wei, Lu Qiuyu, and Jiang Zhengyi, their eyes were indifferent at this moment. Obviously, their memories had all been erased by Lin Yi. Qin Feiyong clenched his hands and stared at Demon Ancestor angrily. "Everyone related to me has fallen into your hands. You are really scheming." "Wrong. This is done by Demon Ancestor. It has nothing to do with this lord. This lord disdains to do this." Demon Ancestor sneered. Qin Feiyong said angrily, "Since you disdain to do this, then let them go." Let them go? Although they are all ants in this lord's eyes, they still have a little bit of value. At least, this lord can enjoy a good show. Demon Ancestor joked. A good show? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Yes. Demon Ancestor waved his hand, and the snowflakes suspended in the void trembled violently. The power of law reappeared. Following that, another group of people appeared in the void. And Qin Feiyong's eyes trembled. These people were Ling Yunfei, Fatso, and the others. Qin Feiyong looked at Demon Ancestor and said angrily, "What do you want to do?" "What do I want to do?" "Of course, let them kill each other." Demon Ancestor laughed ferociously, looked at Lin Yi and shouted, "Go and kill them." "Yes, master." Lin Yi responded respectfully and waved her jade-like hand. Immediately, Lu Qiuyu and the others charged towards Ling Yunfei and the others. Mother. Ling Yunfei saw Lu Ji in the crowd, and his body trembled suddenly. Luo Qingzhu also saw Jiang Zhengyi and Luo Chenxue. Qin Feiyong secretly said, "Everyone, I know you can't bear it. In fact, I feel the same, but I need time." "Don't worry. I have already prepared myself," Luo Qingzhu murmured. The power of a pseudo-god erupted and charged towards Jiang Zhengyi and Luo Chenxue. "Yes. We are all ready." "Mother, I'm sorry." Ling Yunfei murmured, took a step forward, and landed in front of Lu Ji. The power of a pseudo-god directly went into Lu Ji's glabella. Lu Ji's blood immediately splattered in the sky. Is this the taste of killing your loved ones with your own hands? Looking at the fallen Lu Ji, Ling Yunfei's vision blurred with tears. He suddenly raised his head, stared at Demon Ancestor and roared, "You will die a horrible death." Boom. With a heart full of anger, he charged towards old Master Ren. "Young master, let us kill the little prince and the mistress." Willow Tree and Yu Huang looked down at Qin Feiyong and said. Qin Feiyong heard this, looked at the little prince and his mother, closed his eyes, and nodded to Willow Tree and Yu Huang. Li Jian immediately charged towards the little prince and Lu Qiuyu. "What is the meaning of doing this?" Qin Feiyong opened his eyes suddenly, stared at Demon Ancestor, and roared. "Haha! Playing with the lives of others in the palm of your hand, making them cry in despair and pain. What is better than this?" Demon Ancestor laughed wildly. "You are a beast." Qin Feiyong said coldly and used teleportation, flickering in the void. Those who died were all sent to the castle by him. Demon Ancestor said, "You really want to open the gate of rebirth and revive them?" "That's right." Qin Feiyong didn't deny it, but there was a trace of nervousness in his expression. "Don't be nervous. I won't stop you. You can take away their corpses." "Do you know why?" "Because you won't have the chance to revive them. Because in a moment, you will also die here like them." Demon Ancestor laughed wildly. "Unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable." Suddenly, Sima Kuan roared. With a cracking sound, the ice that trapped him shattered with a loud bang. He raised his head and stared at Snowflake like a mad beast. His eyes were scarlet as he roared, "You piece of shit, return Lord Demon Ancestor to me." Boom! His aura surged out, and the Wind Moon Pavilion recovered. He led the Wind Rain Pavilion and madly attacked Snowflake. "You are also a piece of trash, despair." Demon Ancestor's face was full of disdain, and his pupils instantly turned gray. Eyes of despair. Snowflake had taken away Demon Ancestor's divine body, so naturally, he had also obtained Demon Ancestor's ability. Sima Kuan suddenly fell into despair as he lay in the void, trembling. At the same time, Black Tortoise Realm. Zhao Tai-Lai and the others had also broken the ice and escaped. At this moment, they stood in the sky above the Devil's Land, looking at the inner demons in front of them, their eyes full of surprise. They saw the inner demons holding a blood-colored sword and scanning the continent of the Black Tortoise Realm. His blood-red eyes glowed with a bloodthirsty light. The Blood Kirin carefully asked, "Master, what are you going to do?" The inner demon said, "Actually, my original body and I still have an ultimate killer move." Ultimate killer move? The Blood Kirin was stunned and turned to look at Zhao Tai-Lai and the others. "What ultimate killer move?" "We don't know." Zhao Tai-Lai shook his head. "This ultimate killer move is too cruel, so my original body and I have been hiding it in our hearts." The inner demon said. Zhao Tai-Lai asked, "What is the ultimate killer move?" "Killer Zone." The inner demon said one word at a time. "Killer Zone?" The Blood Kirin, the Golden Leopard, and Zhao Tai-Lai looked at each other, their eyes full of confusion. The inner demons lowered his head to look at the blood-colored sword in his hand and sighed. "The killer formula you see now is not the complete form. This is still not the complete form." The 3 people and 2 beasts were shocked. "Yes." The inner demons nodded. Boom! The blood-colored sword glowed with a bloody light. A blood-red barrier appeared out of nowhere. The barrier was a few hundred feet wide, and the murderous aura it exuded was countless times stronger than before. "This is the Killer Zone," the inner demons said. "What does this Killer Zone do?" Tang Hai was surprised. The Killer Zone is the same as the previous killer formula. It absorbs the blood of creatures to increase the power of the blood-colored sword. The inner demons said. "Increase the power of the blood-colored sword? I remember that it used to increase your cultivation." Zhao Tai-Lai said. "P.S. Specially updated a chapter to explain that the WeChat group has been disbanded. Don't ask why. It's private. Please remember the domain name of this book." Literature Library Mobile Version Website. Chapter 1861. Yes. In the past, it would increase one's cultivation by a whole realm. But now, it's even more terrifying than before. Because the slaughter domain can increase the power of the blood-colored sword endlessly. The inner demons said. "Endlessly?" The 3 men and 2 beasts were dumbfounded. Didn't that mean that there was no upper limit? Yes. There's no upper limit. As long as there's enough blood, the power of the blood-colored sword can even surpass Xueqi and the castle. The inner demon said. His blood-colored hair danced in the air, and his whole body emitted a shocking sharpness. Surpass Xueqi and the castle. The 3 men and 2 beasts were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. Tang Hai said in a deep voice, "Such a terrifying slaughter domain must have a huge price to pay." Yes. In the past, the amount of blood needed to increase one's cultivation was hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands. But now, the slaughter domain requires the blood of millions, tens of millions, or even billions of creatures. Moreover, the slaughter domain has a time limit. It can only be maintained for an hour. It's because of this that my original body and I haven't opened the slaughter domain. But now we have no choice. The inner demon said. In other words, you want to kill all the creatures in the Black Tortoise world now? Zhao Tailai was shocked. Yes. The inner demons nodded. How can that be? There are countless sea beasts in the Sea of Reincarnation. You can go find them. Zhao Tailai hurriedly said. Old Zhao. Although there are many sea beasts in the Sea of Reincarnation, the slaughter domain can only be maintained for an hour. There's no time. Moreover, the young master is outside. He can't delay for that long. Tang Hai sighed. Yes. The teleportation gate can't be opened in the demonic Dragon Island. Even if we go to help kill the sea beasts, it will take a long time. The Black Tortoise world is different. As the masters of the Black Tortoise world, the young master and the inner demons both control the power of the rules. As long as they control the power of the rules, they can instantly kill all the creatures here. Xueqi said. But isn't this too cruel? Zhao Tailai said. Don't worry. I will open the gate of rebirth and revive them. Because he is such a foolish person. The inner demons shook their heads and smiled. Boom. Following closely. He took a step forward and stood at the peak of the clouds. He roared, "Power of rule appear." Rumble. Immediately. The entire Black Tortoise world sky was filled with the power of laws, filled with a world-destroying aura. Although I want to revive them, I still can't bear to watch. Zhao Tailai sighed and turned to look elsewhere. Innocent creatures, I'm sorry. The inner demons roared, and the power of the rules poured down from the sky like a torrent. The void was annihilated and the earth was shattered. It was a doomsday scene. He's actually apologizing? This is really unprecedented. Xueqi smiled. Yeah. I've known him for so long, but this is the first time I've heard him say those words. It seems that he has indeed changed. Tang Hai said. You can still laugh? Zhao Tailai raised his eyebrows. Old Zhao, I understand how you feel right now, but the inner demons is right. We don't have a choice now. If we don't open the slaughter zone, not only will we die, but the people here will also be killed by Snowflake. Because it controls the power of laws to travel through time. The Black Tortoise world can't stop it at all. Xueqi sighed. Zhao Tailai fell silent. Outside. The massacre was still ongoing. Lu Qiuyu and the little prince had died in the hands of Willow Tree and Yu Huang. Luo Qingzhu had also killed Zhang Zhengyi and his wife with her own hands. Although Zhang Zhengyi had also stepped into the false god realm, his strength was still too weak compared to Luo Qingzhu. After all, Qin Feiyang wasn't the only one who had become stronger. Luo Qingzhu had also become stronger. The Thunder Leopard, the Seal, the Seahorse, the Earth Dragon, and the others were also killed by Li Jian and the Crocodile Emperor. Many people had already stepped into the false god realm, including the Crocodile Emperor and the other beasts. Therefore, people like Old Master Ran, Yan Wei, and the others had no power to fight back. This was a one-sided massacre. However, no one felt the slightest joy because they were killing their former companions and their loved ones. This was torture. Haha. How wonderful. The demon ancestor laughed. Seeing everyone fall one by one, not only did he not have the slightest sympathy, but his expression became crazier. Inner demons. Hurry up. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands tightly. His nails had sunk into his flesh, causing blood to flow. But his heart was even more painful. Sima Kuan on the side had completely fallen into despair and couldn't extricate himself. Time passed by slowly. Finally, everyone except Lin Yi had been killed. Corpses piled up in the ancient castle. Ling Yunfei and others stood in the void, stained with blood. Their eyes had turned blood red. They didn't kill their eyes, but they hated Snowflake. It's over so soon? What a bunch of useless trash. The demon ancestor snorted coldly, looked at Qin Feiyong, and said, "Do you want to continue playing?" "Sure." Qin Feiyong grinned. "Haha. Kid, you're really interesting. Okay, this lord will fulfill your wish." The demon ancestor laughed. With a wave of his hand, more than 100 people appeared in the void in an instant. These people were the more than 100 pseudo-gods under the demon ancestor. "Kill them all for me," the demon ancestor shouted. "Yes." The more than 100 pseudo-gods nodded in response. They immediately erupted with a terrifying aura and charged toward Ling Yunfei and others. Courting death. Qin Feiyong took a step forward, and his murderous aura soared into the sky. The demon ancestor said, "Don't move or this lord will kill you now." Qin Feiyong's face sank. "Qin Feiyong, since he won't let you do it, then let us do it. I have no other request, just one. When this battle is over, please go to the Forgotten Continent and save everyone." Gong Sun Bei glanced at the more than 100 pseudo-gods and lowered his head to look at Qin Feiyong. "I'm sorry. Before returning to the Great Qin, I should have left you on the Forgotten Continent. Now I won't drag you into this." Qin Feiyong lowered his head and blamed himself. In truth, he was in a hurry to return to the Great Qin and had forgotten that Gong Sun Bei was still in the ancient castle. "You don't need to apologize to me. On the contrary, I want to thank you. Because you let me see with my own eyes how you and your companions protected the Great Qin and the people. Now, I completely understand that I was too blindly loyal in the past. If I can be revived, I will definitely be like you and silently protect the Forgotten Continent, even if I have to bear a lifetime of infamy." Gong Sun Bei smiled and charged toward the pseudo-gods. Rumble. The more than 100 pseudo-gods' eyes were filled with disdain. The dozen or so people in the lead joined forces to attack Gong Sun Bei. Gong Sun Bei immediately fell, his blood staining the sky. Qin Feiyong took a step forward and hugged Gong Sun Bei's corpse. He muttered, "Don't worry, I will definitely revive you." There was no suspense in this battle anymore. Facing more than 100 pseudo-gods, Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, the Kuanping following Luo Qingzhu, Lu Hong, Dan Wangkai, Fatso, the Willow Tree, Yu Huang, the 6 Elders, the Crocodile Emperor, and the other beasts. In short, all the people and beasts fell one after another. Some were cut into pieces. Some were mercilessly crushed. However, Qin Feiyong worked hard to collect their blood. This group of people and beasts were his most important companions. Even if he died, he would not let them die. How is it? Seeing your companions die in front of you one after another, do you feel pain and despair? The demon ancestor laughed wildly. Yes. This feeling can make a person collapse. Qin Feiyong said. Haha. This is the result of going against me. How about this, seeing that your talent is not bad, why don't you follow me and I will let you go? The demon ancestor said. You killed my family and still want me to follow you, are you joking? Qin Feiyong could no longer hold back the anger in his heart, and his divine power roared in all directions. Those more than 100 pseudo-gods, accompanied by a series of shrill screams, were shattered on the spot, and blood mist filled the void. Seeing this, the demon ancestor's eyes suddenly revealed a hint of killing intent, and said, I told you not to move. Yes. Before, I really didn't dare to move, because I can't die yet. I want to revive everyone alive. But now, it's no longer up to you. Qin Feiyong shouted. The demon ancestor joked. It's not up to me? Is it still up to you? You're too conceited. If you had killed me at the first moment, then all of this would have been over. Unfortunately, you gave me time. Qin Feiyong said. Is that so? In that case, the disappearance of the inner demons is to prepare some big killing move. The demon ancestor said. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Haha. What a surprise, you actually still have a trump card. But are you sure you can threaten me? Do you know how terrifying this sovereign strength is? The demon ancestor raised his head and laughed, his face full of disdain. I don't know. but I know that you will definitely die today.
Inner demons, appear! Qin Feiyong shouted. Boom! A shocking murderous aura, like a volcanic eruption, emerged in the void next to Qin Feiyong. Whoosh! Following closely, the inner demons appeared out of thin air.
The blood-colored sword in his hand emitted a dazzling blood-red light, and the aura and sharpness that it released had reached an unprecedented level. The inner demons had not yet made a move, and the void within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles had directly turned into chaos, terrifying beyond compare. The slaughter domain was still there. Inside, it was like a sea of blood, with blood waves surging. The inner demon stood in the slaughter domain, his blood-red hair fluttering in the wind, and he was a living god of death. This aura, this sharpness. The demon ancestor looked at the blood-colored sword at this moment, and his pupils constricted tightly. Even he had a premonition of uneasiness. For the sins you have committed, forgive me. The inner demon said word by word in a sonorous and forceful manner. Immediately, he took a step forward, raised the blood-colored sword in his hand, and slashed out angrily. Heaven and earth fell into silence. At this moment, it was as if time had stopped. Whether it was the demon ancestor, the inner demons, or Qin Feiyong, they could not hear any sound. They could only see the blood-colored sword, tearing through the chaos, and slashing towards Snowflake's body.
Chapter 1862. Clang!
This sword was like splitting the sky and earth apart. Accompanied by sparks, the Snowflake's body was cut in half by the blood-colored long sword on the spot.
What? The demon ancestor was aghast. Lin Yi on the side was also dumbfounded.
The snowflake was a heaven-defying divine artifact, but it was cut in half by a sword? Why is that? Why did the power of the blood-colored long sword suddenly become so terrifying? Seeing this scene, Qin Feiyong and the inner demons were also stunned. Because this was also the first time they opened the slaughter zone and witnessed the true horror of the kill tactic. This was not something that could be described with the word apocalyptic. The inner demons came back to his senses, and his eyes surged with blood as he roared, "Today is your doomsday!" He took a step forward and charged at the demon ancestor. Even the snowflake's body was cut in half, let alone the demon ancestor's body. At this time, the inner demons was unstoppable. Bloody flames lingered all over his body, making him look like a killing god. The snowflake's artifact spirit looked at the inner demons at this moment, and couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. Once the slaughter zone is opened, I am invincible. The inner demons raised his sword and slashed. Thousands of sword chi turned into a huge wave and rolled toward the demon ancestor. The demon ancestor's face was pale. Slaughter zone. What kind of divine art is this? Seeing that the demon ancestor was about to be engulfed by the sword chi, the snowflake that was cut in half suddenly emerged with the power of law. Immediately after, the snowflake, the demon ancestor, Lin Yi, demon dragon, and demon pagoda disappeared without a trace. The inner demons raised his eyebrows. After being cut in half, he could still use the power of law? Not good. Go to the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyong suddenly shouted. Damn it! The inner demons also roared. The two entered the Black Tortoise world and saw the demon ancestor standing above the Devil's Land, holding an unconscious woman in his hand. The woman was the mermaid princess. Below, Zhao Tailai's trio, the Blood Kirin, and the Golden Divine Leopard stood together, all anxious. Qin Feiyong shouted, "Let her go!" Let her go? Ha ha! The demon ancestor laughed as he held onto the mermaid princess tightly. The inner demons didn't dare to act rashly, because killing the mermaid princess was equivalent to killing Qin Feiyong. Isn't it very powerful? Come and kill me if you can. However, your growth has truly exceeded this exalted's expectations. The fiend ancestor snickered. Qin Feiyong said solemnly, as a heaven-defying divine artifact that possesses the power of laws, you actually used such a despicable method. Do you feel ashamed? Trying to provoke me? You're too naive. Your so-called slaughter domain is indeed very frightening. Unfortunately, you all have not grasped the power of the laws. That is to say, if you die here, everyone can't be resurrected. Don't think that I'm joking. You know my character. The inner demon snorted coldly. Qin Feiyong's gaze trembled. He could doubt anyone's words, except for the inner demons. If he said it, then he must be able to do it. I can't die. For mother, for grandpa, for those companions and friends who died for me, I absolutely can't die here. Qin Feiyong roared in his heart, and a strong desire to live emerged in his heart. But it was useless. The cracks on his body had already spread to his entire body. His body was on the verge of falling apart. Even his divine soul was cracking. What should I do? Qin Feiyong was desperate. His consciousness was gradually swallowed up. Finally, he closed his eyes unwillingly, and his consciousness fell into a deep darkness. Swish! But at this moment, beams of lights flashed out from Qin Feiyong's body. The inner demons, Zhao Tai Lai, and the rest were bewildered. What appeared from Qin Feiyong's body was the tens of thousands of cedars. Young man, we can feel your desire to live. Suddenly, a faintly discernible voice came from one of the cedars. This is... The inner demon's eyes widened. These cedars had indeed given birth to tree spirits. Your care and concern for your family, your care and concern for your companions, your compassion for the common people in the world. All of this makes us admire you very much. There are not many young people like you in the world, and you are worthy of our protection. Now we will merge with you, and we hope that you can lead everyone to create a truly peaceful world. Before his voice died away, tens of thousands of cedars shattered in an instant, turning into sparkling and translucent light spots, and surged into Qin Feiyong's limbs and bones. Bang! A majestic life force suddenly exploded in Qin Feiyong's body. His broken body was immediately repaired at a speed visible to the naked eye. The cedars, Zhao Tai Lai and the others looked at this scene, and they were all extremely bewildered. They sacrificed themselves so that this esteemed one could be reborn. The inner demons endured the sadness in his heart, and with a plop, knelt in the void and murmured, "Thank you." They sacrificed themselves so that the young master could be reborn. Zhao Tai Lai and the others murmured, and also knelt in the void one after another, bowing deeply. Soon, the cracks on Qin Feiyong's body were healed one by one. The life force of the cedars was also gradually exhausted. After a while, Qin Feiyong finally opened his eyes slowly, looking at the inner demons, Zhao Tai Lai, and the others kneeling in the void, and said in confusion, "Why am I not dead? Why are you kneeling in the void? Don't you know?" The inner demons got up, looked at Qin Feiyong, and asked, "What do I know?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. The inner demon said, "It's the cedars, they saved you." The cedars. Qin Feiyong was taken aback, and hurriedly sank his mind into his body, but searching his entire body, he did not find a single cedar. Don't look for it. Because they shattered their original bodies and merged with your body. The inner demon sighed. What? Qin Feiyong's body trembled. The inner demon said, before shattering their original bodies, they said one sentence, asking you to create a truly peaceful world. Qin Feiyong raised his two arms, looked at his hands, and his eyes were filled with tears. He remembered yesterday, when the inner demons were going through their tribulation, he said to the cedars that after this battle was over, he would return them their freedom. But he did not expect. At this moment, in order to save him, they all sacrificed themselves. Young master. Zhao Tai Lai and the others wanted to comfort him, but they did not know where to start. It was rare for the inner demons to not disturb Qin Feiyong, because in his heart, there was also a deep sense of gratitude towards the cedars. Phew! A moment passed. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath, knelt in the void, kowtowed 3 times and 9 times, and murmured, "I promise you, no matter how much I have to pay, no matter how difficult the road ahead is, I will definitely create a truly peaceful world." After saying that, he stood up, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, and turned his head to look at the inner demons. The two nodded at the same time, put away the mermaid princess's body, and appeared in the sky above the sea outside with Zhao Tai Lai and the others. Lord Demon Ancestor. A murmur entered their ears. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice, and saw Sima Kuan lying in the void, like a helpless child, crying bitterly. The demon ancestor had left, and the eye of despair had lost its effect. Therefore, he had already woken up. Qin Feiyong, inner demons. Sensing the aura of Qin Feiyong and the others, his gaze trembled slightly, and he hurriedly raised his head to look at Qin Feiyong and the inner demons, asking, "Where is Lord Demon Ancestor? Did you see him?" "They have already gone to the Forgotten Continent," Qin Feiyong said. "Forgotten Continent," Sima Kuan muttered, and then crawled in front of Qin Feiyong and begged, "I also want to go to the Forgotten Continent, please, help me." "You saw it with your own eyes, the demon ancestor's consciousness has already been erased by the snowflakes. Even if you chase after him to the Forgotten Continent, it will be useless," Qin Feiyong said. "It can't be. Lord Demon Ancestor must still be alive, I believe." Sima Kuan shook his head and roared. "You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.